Constellation is brought to you by BetterHelp, online therapy that can help you where you are. Online, customizable, and affordable, BetterHelp awaits. I highly recommend therapy. It's worked for me, and it can work for you too, if only you have an open mind and a willingness to get better. So why not find more balance with BetterHelp? Visit betterhelp.com/constellation today. That's BetterHelp.com/constellation to get 10% off your first month of therapy sessions. That's betterhelp.com/constellation. Again, that's betterhelp.com/constellation for online therapy that can help you right now. Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Dagan Moriarty. Dagan, good to see you, my friend. I'm wondering, how do you feel? Have you seen the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake trailer? That was at the PlayStation Showcase. I was curious if you saw that. Yeah.
No, I haven't. Oh, that's exciting.
It's really not very good. It's exactly what you would expect out of Konami. Only Konami can have such a cool product and show it so boring in such a boring way, and then refuse to say who's developing it.
That's very Konami.
It's virtuous, by the way, in case anyone wants to know who's developing it. Dayton, good to see you, my friend. How are you today?
Good to see you. Happy Friday. I'm not usually a big Happy Friday guy. Just feel like maybe it's the holiday weekend. Festive. Happy Friday.
Festive Memorial Day. Very festive Memorial Day.
Oh, I think barbecue.
That's the word I would use for Memorial Day.
I'm going down the shore. You know, we got to treat it. Let's treat it in a festive fashion. Yeah. Right?
Sure.
Let's take it.
Definitely. Piles of dead American soldiers in the past. Very festive. It's good to see you, my friend. And Gene Park of the Washington Post. One of us. Welcome back to the show. And by the way, I didn't realize this. It's actually 3/4 of Punching Up. The show. I didn't mean for it. Well, I didn't set this up. So that's very good. So Gene, welcome back to the show. Congratulations to all of you, but especially to you, Gene. On Punching Up. How are you today, my friend?
Thank you. Happy Aloha Friday. Fridays are a big deal in Hawaii, obviously because of Aloha Friday, and everyone wears Hawaiian shirts every day in Hawaii.
Is that like Taco Tuesday?
Not. It's just. It just
I'm
happens.
just looking for the most ethnic thing I can think of.
Taco Tuesdays happen every week too, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Aloha Fridays happen every day. Especially it's a government holiday too, so everyone's just logged off. Like I just came back from the newsroom in the Washington Post. Barely anyone's there too. You know.
Oh, interesting. That's Hawaii's so fascinating. I've been almost everywhere in the United States. Mike and I talk about it sometimes. I feel like I've been to more than 40 states. Probably I'd have to list them out, but I've never been to Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And I got to get there. So I've flown over it, but I've never been there. And I got to get there because it looks beautiful. It's interesting. It's America, but it's not, like there seems to be a vibe to it that is so fascinating. Like you go there and use USD, but it's not like anything you've seen before.
It's very much different culture. I was a little worried about the culture shock that I would have moving from Hawaii to buttoned up DC. And it's still there. I still, I don't like wearing ties, and nobody wears ties in Hawaii. The only reason why you might wear a tie is because you have a court appearance, because you're either a lawyer or it's your sentencing. So,
Fair enough, my friend. Well, yeah, I'm not much of an American projection of power person. I'm really not, but I do love that we have an American state that is so far away from the American mainland that in any era of history, someone would have tried to take it at this point.
It is the most isolated metropolitan city in the world.
Honolulu. Yeah, I would believe that. Yeah. And our Aunt Joni lived there for a little while, and I think she really liked it, but I think she felt like really isolated. Like you said, she was really far away.
Isolated. It's very isolated. Politically, it's very strange. Everyone's a Democrat, even though half of the Democrats are basically Republicans. For example, Tulsi Gabbard, my old friend. You know, we
you know her?
Yeah.
I would love to meet her sometime. She's there's very few people in American politics, contemporary American politics, that I actually do like.
We actually
And
go back
I think she's great.
way back, because I knew her. I was covering city council for the Honolulu Star Bulletin, and she was the city councilwoman, and we were both the same age, so we both clicked immediately because, you know, like, hey, we're the young people in this field or whatever. So we used to go happy hour and get drinks, hang out. And I've seen her a couple of times out here in DC when she was a congresswoman. So
She'd be a formidable VP candidate on the Republican ticket, I think. Something like DeSantis Gabbard or Trump Gabbard.
she would be.
I think would be
I
interesting.
think that's what she's
realize
been
she was
angling
that
for.
young.
She is definitely like a climber. She definitely wants to accumulate power.
Yeah, she switched parties. I mean,
She did.
So it's she always read it as a Republican. She always read to me as a Republican, even when she was a Democrat. So it's like Joe Manchin, where it's like, well, you're going to be a Republican soon, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Anyway, Michael Watson, good day to you, my friend, my dear, sugar tits.
Oh,
Are you allowed to?
Jesus.
Am I allowed to say that? I don't know.
I guess. Goodness gracious. And here I
How
was.
are you, my dear?
I'm doing pretty good. I was going to continue the holiday weekend theme and just say I'm excited for Memorial Day because I have been escalated from bringing a dessert to bringing an appetizer.
Right.
I'm always the desserts person. I like to bake a lot, so like that's fine with me. But it
You've
feels
gone from Chuck
like
Knobloch to Johnny Damon on the lineup.
Promotion, it is.
I don't know what that means. But is this baseball?
Batting eighth to first, but yeah.
I don't know what that means either.
I'm the Wade Boggs now. But no,
You wish.
It's exciting. It's a little intimidating because I'm not usually much of an appetizers person in terms of like our family really likes those like hot dips, like crab dip, buffalo chicken dip,
Yeah,
all that
you've
type of
noticed
stuff
that, and
I don't
that's
like.
true.
They love
Yeah, I don't like that
taco
stuff
dip. So I chose, that's what I'm going to make, is some sort of like warm cheese dip, but it's intimidating to make a recipe that you know that you won't like. And so it's like I can't really judge if it's good or not because it's like I don't like it.
Yeah,
I hope
don't
they
wanna-
do.
Yeah, you have the recipe's here somewhere.
Oh no, I brought it downstairs. It's a
you took it.
warm
Oh, okay.
cheese dip. It's got ricotta, mozzarella, herbs in it.
That sounds
But I'm
delicious.
just like, you know,
What's wrong with that?
to me this sounds like horrible, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll like it.
Ricotta, yeah, too much ragut, as we say, is because you know we have to bastardize every word and pretend that it's Italian, even though Italian people would just punch us in the face. They heard us speaking any of this. Yeah, fair enough. It is interesting. You've been promoted. By the way, only Colin can make a 2005 deep cut Yankees lineup reference because I don't know any other Yankees team after 2010, probably. I can name 3 Yankees that are on the team right now. I can name literally the entire bullpen of the 2005 Yankees. So
Times have changed.
So what my reference was that Johnny Damon was our leadoff hitter, and it's really not Knobloch was gone by then, but Knobloch I think, but
Yeah,
he would have been deep into the lineup. Like you didn't even really want him to bat if there was a way we could. And I didn't know this day they brought the DH to the NL. Is that true?
Oh yeah. That's not this year. That's as of
Was it like a year or two ago?
Maybe
3 years
2
ago?
years.
I can't believe that.
yeah. Yep. That's a thing.
So what is the difference between the leagues? Why are there 2 leagues?
Makes interleague play a little less of an event.
Remember we used to say things like we would think the strike zone was bigger in the AL. No, it was bigger in the NL.
Yeah.
And that's why there was more hitting and all that.
Yes.
I'm like, is that really true? Or are we just making things up here? I don't know. Anyway, I can't get into this right now. We need to do baseball as a topic.
That's a great
because
topic. Yeah.
there's probably nothing in life that I was so enamored with for so long. And then I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And I just walked away from it. You know, like 162 game seasons are awesome when you're 20.
Yeah.
When you're 38,
That's a good
I'll
point.
look at the standings every 3 weeks.
Yeah,
now,
big
you know?
investment. Too big of an investment.
Like we definitely have to talk about the Yankees at some point, though. Those Yankee teams might be my favorite professional teams of all
Oh,
time.
it was so exciting. back then.
And people don't know me as a Yankee fan, really, because by the time I became a personality, I was over that era
yeah,
of my life.
you were past it. Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
But I fucking loved the Yankees. And there are old pictures of me in my bedroom with all my Yankee posters. So there's like a little bit of credibility you can see there. I have all the news days I have 96, 98, 99, 2000, the covers of Newsday
That's
on my
awesome.
wall in the background
That
of one of them, which is
era.
cool.
So exciting.
My Jeter poster, my Babe Ruth poster. Anyway, friends, it's good to gather you guys here today. The crew of Punching Up. Now, hey, how you guys feeling about the show? The show is doing great. Punching Up, our new Nintendo podcast, bi-weekly. It is a big hit. Are you going to be doing it weekly before long? I don't know.
Oh, that's an interesting conversation, but it's fun. We were saying yesterday, it's fun. It has a very conversational, very light and airy, very similar. I feel like it's going well on the level of Constellation, where it's just fun to do. We're just having a good time with it.
So it's not like Sacred Symbols, where it's 10 seconds into the last episode, I literally 10 seconds that I was telling Chris to sit on my lap so that I could tell him a story. I tell Chris that I'm his I'm like, just sit on your grandpappy's lap.
The only thing is that Chris would make a good baby. Like, he does like good baby impressions, and like he also has a baby face. So that's the most disturbing thing, that he fits well as a baby.
I really do often think about it's like it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, Gene? Because part of Sacred Symbols' popularity is how stupid it is.
Yeah.
But part of the reason why Sacred Symbols will never be a mainstream product is because of how stupid it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I could imagine you find that show. You're like, oh yeah, I got my PlayStation 5 on, and you listen to that. You got to really you got to get it in order to stay with it. Because I imagine be like, I can't deal with this.
Keep doing it your way.
Those are my favorite podcasts. The one with the tons of inside jokes, you know?
That's the way I am too. Around the NFL, the Fifth Column, like these kinds of podcasts that have like people that are friends and gather and all that. So, but I'm glad Constellation is able to capture that. I'm proud of you guys. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
It's fun.
And hey, Gene, congratulations on, I saw your piece on Zelda was in the Style front page, which is huge. I mean, that's awesome.
That's kind of the benefit of my new job, that because we talked about this before when we were launcher, the section that got laid off, we were like kind of othered in the Washington Post, and like, it was always a struggle to get us in print. But now that I'm in the Style section, my stories will just appear in print like almost all the time. So
Style, yeah, it's interesting. Is there an arts and entertainment section?
That is the arts and entertainment section.
Oh, so that's called Style.
It's super confusing. It's like this. It was literally the first thing I talked about when I interviewed at the Washington Post. I was like, "What the fuck is Style? Like what does that mean?" And they're like, "No, well, it's got this big legacy of blah blah blah." And it's like, I was like, "Is that where like movies and everything is?" And it's like, "Yeah, that's pretty much where it is." So.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I'm sure the Washington Post audience knows that, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. My friends, we have 4 great topics as usual today, but I want to begin with me because I need you guys at your maximum acuity. I've prepared a quiz. Now, we've done this once before. I don't think either of you were on that show. Were you? No. Where I did a quiz. It was a visual quiz about naming sports logos. And I thought it was really funny. Some people didn't like it, but we got a lot of really positive feedback about it. However, I think that we can, and people are like, we want more quizzes. And I'm like, okay, cool. But let's remove the visual element.
Okay.
Not only because I don't want to make Dustin cry, he's a little baby boy, but because, in his editing and his premiere, I don't want to make him shed tears and all that. But also because I think it will just play better for audio. I prepared another quiz. And I just want to see. So can I regale you for a second, if I might? I often reflect on inherent knowledge, or not even inherent, but things and that you take for granted. And in dating and being with Micah, I've realized, because she's kind of put it in words that I can understand it, and we've had specific conversations where I've really realized that my mind literally in my head works like some sort of Rolodex, where I have dates and I literally move through years and time periods, and I can feel my mind brushing through them, as if you're going through the stacks at college or whatever in the library, and I take a lot of this stuff for granted. I don't know very much that matters. I don't have any practical skills. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician. I can't even screw drive a coat rack into the wall without crying, as Micah would tell you. I didn't cry, but I almost did, because I fucked the wall up.
He did not cry, but he yelled.
Yeah. I just could. Just to let you guys know, she wanted me to use the drill, and I'm like, I'm going to fuck this up. I don't like using these things. And she's like, you can do it. And I fucked it up.
But I fixed it. All I had to do was put the drywall anchors in, and then we were good. That's all. That was it. That was it. We were fine.
So I don't know, or I can't do anything. And I don't know anything that matters. I went to Northeastern for American history. And so I have this deep well of American history knowledge. And then, of course, my gaming and all of these things. And I've realized that I've just taken a lot of it for granted, especially in the history realm, because I am always surprised what people don't know. some of the most basic and obvious things. And so my friends, I don't want to say these are basic and obvious, but I've created 10 questions that I wanted to ask you about American history. And these 10 questions I could have answered in 9th grade, no problem.
You're going to turn us into the Miss America pageant.
This is a gotcha program.
That don't know shit. Like, this is what this is going to become.
I wish that Gene said, now I'm really starting to second guess myself here about it, because Gene said exactly what Dustin said. He said that it was a gotcha thing with the logos too. And I'm like, isn't it funny to be self-deprecating and silly? Like, I don't know. I don't want people to think I'm doing it to be mean-spirited. I'm doing it to laugh.
Yeah,
those are two different things.
It is fun.
You know?
I
don't want you to feel bad. And here's the thing is that I got 100 on my American history regents in high school. I got a 5 on the AP history test. There's just something innate about this. So maybe I'm over analyzing how easy these would be.
Well, it's your passion.
So maybe it's not.
It's your passion.
Right. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Because see, Gene, I don't want you to feel that way, because in even leading up to it, I was trying to be self-deprecating by telling you how stupid I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I see
how I can't do anything at all. So isn't that the ultimate gotcha? Like, you could come here. I mean, you know, I can't paint the wall. I couldn't screw drive anything in. So don't feel bad.
I'm going to get on your lap. Just keep telling me a story. I just want to feel like sitting on your lap.
Come on over
tell me a story right now. I don't know what it is. Weird.
Tell me about the Civil War.
I'm going to tell you something. It's funny that you say bring up the Civil War, Gene, because I have the first question. So you guys have whiteboards with you or things that you can write on?
Okay. Let me get my iPad.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Whiteboard's too big. Want to see my whiteboard that I tried to bring?
That'll do. I mean, why? That's okay.
It's unwieldy.
Yeah, it is. It's like, I think that's fine, but whatever you want to do is fine.
I'm having flashbacks to when I tried to fill in the map of all the states like last year, and that didn't go very well at all.
Oh, yeah. I'm not great with that either. Geography would be another gotcha. We could do that. Save that one for the next show.
Yeah, Colin holds up an outline of a state, and we have to say which one it is.
If it was anything inside the border, it would be a disaster. An absolute disaster. It could be anything.
We were talking, Mike and I were talking, the state thing I can do easy, the Canadian provinces I can do easy. Ooh. I think I could do Europe.
Okay.
I couldn't do Africa.
Africa would be
not
tough.
Even a little bit. I mean, if I studied it, I could probably do it. But if you just gave it to me right now, I'd probably be able to accurately fill in 10 countries in Africa. That's not nearly enough, you know. But Europe, I think I could do. Yeah.
Your prelude, though, of I don't know anything, but I'm a genius at American history. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering if that helps. If that makes us look better or worse.
No, it doesn't help it. I'm not saying I'm a genius at American. See, there is no such thing as being a genius at American history. I was a nerd about it, so I just absorbed it.
He's a savant.
I didn't know it.
One thing I will say about American history, it's not a passion of mine, but when I start delving into it, whether that's watching John Adams or read about something, I could see it being it's one of those weird things where I could see it being a passion because it's very interesting. But I didn't.
Dude, it's fascinating.
I almost failed out of social studies in high school, so
that's incredible.
It should go well.
I mean, because here's the thing about it. History is just storytelling.
It's true.
And if you have teachers that don't tell stories and don't know how to teach it, then it's going to be horrible. Who the fuck wants to learn dates and times without context?
Yeah.
You know, and events and all of that. That's why studying history at the collegiate level is, dude, I people used to audit those classes all the time, you know, because they just want to sit there and listen.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's like going to a seminar, you know.
I could see that.
Yeah. So anyway, are you ready to go, Gene, my friend?
Yeah, let's go.
All right,
let's do it. All right. So I have these questions in what I would think would be progressive difficulty, starting with easier questions and going with difficult. But I'm going to tell you at the top, like, none of them are difficult. I'm not going to ask you any of these questions and you're going to be like, it's unbelievable. I'm not going to ask you about military movements and the Battle of the Bulge and shit like that. You know?
Okay.
All right. Number 1. What year did the American Civil War begin?
That's great.
What year did the American Civil War begin? It's important to note that states started to secede the year before, but the war began in a specific year in terms of conflict.
Okay.
South Carolina, of course, out in December of something, but the next year is when the war begins. All right.
Okay.
Dig, are you ready?
Think so. I think so. Yeah, I'll give it my best shot.
All right, let's see what you got.
All right.
1845. No, incorrect.
Okay.
Too early.
Too early, in fact. Damn.
Gene. Exactly. 1861.
Oh.
That is the year.
There you go.
Well done. Micah?
Oh.
1860.
You were
That's
close.
good. That's
Wow,
close.
super close.
That's real close.
That's
Some
pretty much
people
it.
would say that you were right because South Carolina secedes in December of
That
1860.
would be pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, they see. Okay.
yeah. I'm going to give you credit for that because I'm biased.
It's pretty close. That's pretty good.
That's
Yeah.
really close. And you also said the year
18
before, so like, you know, yeah. I
Um,
also
so-
wonder whether it was 1860. It's a cleaner number too, you know.
It is a cleaner number. I'm sure that historians around the world would have preferred that, but that's not the way it went down. Of course, the war begins in 1861, ends 1865. 1845 is an interesting guess. Dave, where was your mind on that? That's more Mexican War era,
Yeah.
Zach Taylor, American expansion.
Yeah, I've been reading
those
Blood
guys fought in
Meridian.
the Civil War.
1845,
but-
is that when Texas became...
Yes, the 18. That's exactly right.
Okay,
Yeah, the
okay.
1840s is the Republic of Texas, getting all the way into Gadsden Purchase and
Yeah, it was
all of this,
Okay.
and the Mexican Cession, obviously.
All right.
That's when we absorb all the I think in Mexico they call the Reconquista, right, or something like that. There's a movement in Mexico that land does belong to them, and it certainly did at one point. All right,
All right.
1861. That was it. That was good, Gene. Well done. Well done. And Micah, good enough.
I think that might be the only one I get because there's a reason why I mentioned the Civil War at the beginning. So
Number 2.
Okay.
Who was the third president of the United States?
Hmm.
Who was the third president of the United States?
Know this.
The third president, we have Judge Awash.
George
go first.
Wash.
But who? And then there's someone after him, and there's someone indeed after him.
Mhm.
1801 to 1809, elected 1800.
Pretty-
Famous election. They changed all the rules after this election because it was all fucked up. Okay. Dag, what do you got?
I got Tom and Jeff.
Yeah, that's right. Tommy Jeff.
Tom and
Well done.
Jeff.
Gene.
same, like
Nice.
that could have been
Well
his
done.
name, but Jefferson.
Yep, well done. Micah.
Oh yeah, I got this one. I remembered the president's song.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Excellent.
nice.
See, I'm proud of you guys. Thomas Jefferson, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe. The first 5.
All right.
Number 3. Which state was the latest to be given American statehood?
Mm.
Oh, this one's easy.
I think this was 1959. I
Wow,
want
was
to
it
say,
that
which is
late?
so interesting. It happened within our parents' lifetime, which I'm so fascinated by. That they lived in an era of 48 and 49 states.
Mm-hmm.
That brief period
That's
with
crazy.
49 stars.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Imagine being only 49 states. That's, you know. See what you
I'm
will about
frustrated that we don't
colonization
have
and everything,
more.
but like it's crazy that there was a 49 states. That's such a talk about like bad numbers. That's one.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Gene, be honest with me. Though I'm a peacekeeping man, a little bit of American imperialism every now and again. Take Canada. We tried.
Mhm.
We need more states, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, DC is always angling for statehood, right?
Yep.
So we can legalize our weed at least,
Mhm.
or it is legal, but at least we can like put in place like the systems to sell it.
How about Greenland?
Like,
Trump wanted to buy Greenland,
yeah,
right?
that's right. I totally forgot about that. Holy shit.
Which is actually a bet. People didn't want to admit that was actually a really great idea, and that they would never let that happen because it was that would give us like all sorts of natural water resources and all sorts of things like that. Anyway, all right, Dag, number 3, the 50th state.
You know what? I'm second guessing this. You know what? I have to be wrong. I just thought of something. I'm just gonna make an amendment here. Maybe my first
I don't
answer
know
was
about
right,
this.
but now I'm thinking, was it?
No, you were Gene.
I was right the first time.
Educate everyone. That's right.
Mhm.
Micah.
Oh yes.
Yep.
So when
Yep.
Pearl Harbor was bombed, Hawaii was what?
It was not.
It was a territory.
It was a territory.
That's what made me second guess it. Okay. I even drew my nice little Polynesian flower there. Damn it. All right.
That's an important piece of history that needs to be discussed further with a lot of people, though, is that Pearl Harbor was attacked, but it wasn't an American state. It would have been even worse for Japan.
Had that.
If it was an actual American state, not a military installation.
That's what made me. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, they were targeting.
Can you imagine the vengeance?
They weren't targeting Hawaii. They were targeting Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And yeah, I worked at both papers that like declared war, and the old Honolulu Advertiser building was when the first radio signals of "we're under attack" was coming out. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah,
love that.
I covered the Pearl Harbor anniversary like every year, so I got to meet like a bunch of like survivors from that time, and it was interesting to see it dwindle. That there'd be 20 of them, and then the next year there'd be 18, 19. The last one I covered, there was only 3 of them left.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It is sad. I was talking about that. I was at our sister's wedding. I was talking to so you'll find this interesting. We had uncles. Well, our dad was in the Air Force during Vietnam, but he never left the United States. But we had an Uncle Steve, his brother-in-law, that was over there and fought in some hairy shit like Hamburger Hill, I think he was at, and like other things. And he went back they were telling me that he and his crew, maybe in the last 10 years, went back and took dog tags and went back to where all the battles were, and I guess buried things, and like went and did this whole sort of mystical journey through
That's awesome.
Their units' time in Vietnam. And I'm like, that's good stuff, because these guys are going to be dead soon too, unfortunately. Like the World War II vets are, if any of them are left, they're senile at this point.
Yeah. Yep.
Got to get those stories out. You got to extract them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what Band of Brothers was so important, I think, for a whole generation of people.
Good.
Constellation is brought to you by BetterHelp, online therapy that can help you where you are. For more information, head to betterhelp.com/constellation. So, as someone who suffers from essentially lifelong depression and anxiety, I think it's really important to use my platform to advocate for better mental health care, or even just plead with our listeners, that's you, to think about your mental health care, period. See, I wear my brain maladies on my sleeve because I want to remind folks that they aren't alone, that life goes on, and that there's help out there if you're willing to seek it. And the reason that BetterHelp is one of my very favorite sponsors of any Last Stand show is because they break down barriers and remove excuses so that you can speak to a licensed therapist from the comfort of wherever you are. I first walked into a therapy office in 1992. My parents had just gotten divorced, and honestly, I was too young, upset, and ignorant to be able to take advantage of the tools that were placed before me. But as I got older, I started to soften on therapy, and indeed, I see someone here in Virginia every month just to monitor myself and talk to a professional. And that may be all you need too. See, BetterHelp is online therapy, meaning that it's conducted via video or audio or even just text. When you sit and think about it, BetterHelp's revolutionary platform is actually quite sensical and logical. I've had deep conversations with people thousands of miles away. Why couldn't I get the help I needed from a distance too? With BetterHelp, you can. And their approach actually lessens costs for both sides, since there's no office or space to rent for them and no traveling and waiting for you. My friends, BetterHelp's licensed therapists can help you with the whole gamut of the human experience. Relationships and family issues, trouble at work or with friends, feelings of sadness, loneliness, disenchantment, loss, and so much more. The thing that ties these various problems together is that we all deal with virtually all of it in our lives. It's unavoidable. We all are human. So really, all that's in your control is how you deal with your feelings. Therapy, as you may have imagined, is great for that. Online, customizable, and affordable, BetterHelp awaits. I highly recommend therapy. It's worked for me, and it can work for you too, if only you have an open mind and a willingness to get better. So why not find more balance with BetterHelp? Visit betterhelp.com/constellation today. That's BetterHelp.com/constellation to get 10% off your first month of therapy sessions. That's betterhelp.com/constellation. Again, that's betterhelp.com/constellation for online therapy that can help you right now. All right. Now we're getting into the intermediate questions.
This should go well.
Number 4.
All right.
4 American presidents were assassinated in office. Name 3 of them.
Okay.
Four American presidents were assassinated in office. Name 3 of them. Jesus Christ. What is so funny?
I hate it. I'm struggling. I feel like I'm in school again, and I'm like Mr. Cassidy is like bearing down on me, like, name 3 presidents. And I'm like,
Name 3 presidents.
oh, man. There's
All right. 4 American presidents were assassinated. Office, name 3 of them. That's enough time. Dag,
Okay.
what do you got?
Sorry for the tasteful illustration.
Reagan wasn't assassinated.
It was an attempt.
Yeah, there was an attempt in 1981, but he wasn't. Reagan wasn't actually assassinated. Did you live in a different 1980s?
I know he didn't die, but
We'll return to that.
All right.
Okay, because that's not the spirit of it, but maybe.
I don't know the other one.
Gene, what's your answer? JFK, Lincoln, Garfield. No, is it? Yeah, no, you're right. Garfield's right.
Okay.
Arthur for some reason right here. Yeah, James Garfield, 1881.
Oh,
the only
James
ones I know.
Garfield. Thank God. I thought it was Garfield.
Yeah.
Garfield.
Yeah, he was killed in Washington, D.C. Right
wow.
at the train station there. Maybe Union Station, something like that.
What?
Some station, some prolific station there. Micah, do you have any answers?
I have answers. Can you read it?
JFK, Lincoln, and what does it say? Hamilton. Oh, I couldn't see it. I'm sorry. No, Hamilton wasn't the president of the United States, but he was killed by the vice president of the United States.
I didn't think he was the president.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was the president. I've never seen the musical though, so I really wasn't sure. I just knew that something bad happened, and it was it was all I could think of. But I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, he is. That's good. I mean, he is killed. He would be constitutionally ineligible though because he was not born here. So
I want partial points for Reagan. I feel like he should have died.
Well, he should have.
He was shot in the head.
He was. There's an amazing shot, Gene. You probably know it. It's probably one of my favorite pictures I've ever seen of, and it might be a still of a video, but I think it's a real picture of one of the Secret Service agents pulling an Uzi out of a suitcase.
Oh shit!
When this was happening, it's like a dope, and I think he either was shot or killed, the guy who did that. But like one of them's carrying a suitcase and he just like fucking takes an Uzi out of it. When this is like all going down, it all happens in like 3 seconds.
Some Ghost in the Shell shit.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and like protecting them, I think on the ground or whatever, like doing some these guys just go into, it's like, I guess the only time it's really happened where we've gotten good, not Zapruder film fucking footage of the attempt.
That's true. And meanwhile,
but it is true
Shinzo Abe is murdered and everyone's like, oh, okay.
Oh,
dude, that was horrible. Yeah. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like Japan where the violence is fairly minimal.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how do we want to score this? Dag, I am going to give you full credit for that.
No, you don't have to give me full
credit. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway.
It's the only one I'm
Gene, you obviously get full credit. You're killing it right now. Micah, I'm going to give you full credit too.
Oh, all right.
Because I'm feeling really nice. So, of course, for people that don't know, it would be Lincoln in 65, right after he's reelected. So in the beginning of his second term. And then James Garfield in 1881. I think the guy that killed him was an anarchist, if I remember correctly. William McKinley died in 1901. That's how Teddy Roosevelt became president.
I don't know. And
then JFK in 1963. And they all happened within 100 years. Isn't that interesting? So no presidents started dying. William Henry Harrison was the first president to die in office. And then John Tyler became president, but he died naturally.
Yeah. So my favorite karaoke bar in DC is actually the same building where Lincoln's assassination was plotted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They actually have a plaque outside that says, this is where Lincoln's assassination was plotted. Anyways, welcome to Walk and Roll Sushi. It's literally called Walk and Roll Sushi. I'm not even fucking kidding, dude.
Here's where the fucking post-Confederates plotted the death of the American president. Now have a California roll.
Basically.
By the way, I heard recently, was he assassinated at point blank range, like gun to head? I don't think I ever realized that. I
thought what happened was that he was like cornered by the U.S. Army in a barn, and didn't they just burn it down or something like that?
Happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they just had made no attempt to get him, and just. But you might be right. Someone might have shot him through a board or something. There might be something to that. They did just kill him, though. Okay. That is true. They didn't really make an earnest effort to try to capture him.
That's interesting.
He got away for a while. It's so interesting, man. Can you imagine being there in the theater for that.
Insanity.
And witnessing that dude jump on the stage, yell that, and that, Sic Semper Tyrannis, and then fucking run off with a broken leg. And everyone's like, what the fuck?
Dude, imagine if Twitter existed back then.
It'd be a different world, man. Crazy stuff.
It'd be so stupid.
Dude, the United States would have been much different if Lincoln wasn't killed. Like it's that death can't, I don't think that death is looked at as consequential as it is because the war was won by that point. So he did see the war through, generally speaking.
Right.
But it would have been totally different. He was very conciliatory with the South.
Mm-hmm.
It were the Republicans in Congress that pushed Reconstruction as it really, as it more became, which is interesting, for better or for worse. This doesn't have to be an American history class. Okay. Number 5. What northern state did the Missouri Compromise create out of an old state in the North?
Oh, I don't know.
So there's a state in the North. Think about the map of the North and how it existed and the 13 colonies and all the way through. There's a state up there that was part of another state. And in the Missouri Compromise, it was wedged off and we don't even think twice about it now. Which state is that? Missouri Compromise, of course, 1820. Dig, the Civil War probably would have started in 45 if not for the Missouri Compromise.
Well, that's what I meant.
That's widely the Missouri Compromise is widely considered having kicked the can down the road at least a generation of what would have inevitably happened. Okay. And it's probably good that it went longer because the South might have had a better chance of winning the war earlier. All right. That's enough time. Dig, what is the state? That's right.
Oh, shit.
That's dead on. Well done. Gene, do you have it?
I do.
Nice.
This was a total fucking guess.
Nice. Micah.
No, I said Vermont because you said split down the middle. And I'm like, well, Vermont and New Hampshire
I
are just
almost
like
went to Vermont because I was like,
they're just like
I'm
one
sorry, I
fucking
didn't mean
shape split down the middle.
I didn't think I meant to say indicate that Maine was part of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
a lot of people
really
don't know that.
shape.
Massachusetts was huge, because Massachusetts went all the way up past New Hampshire, So in colonial times, and you guys probably remember this, but a lot of the colonial charters sent the cardinal, like the ordinal directions of like how things were mapped up in infinity. So for instance, Pennsylvania was literally Pennsylvania had to give up its land to give new states land technically in their charters, because Pennsylvania is like, if you see those straight lines of Pennsylvania, they just went as far as whatever. And so things like that made it easier to split states into pieces. Obviously, Virginia was split up during the Civil War and so on and so forth. So Maine is the answer. Yes.
Very good. Very cool. All
right. Number 6.
All right.
How many constitutional amendments are in the Bill of Rights?
Oh, my goodness.
oh my God.
The Bill of Rights are the first amendments to the Constitution, passed right after the Constitution. Basically part and parcel with them. While the Constitution deals with government, the Bill of Rights deals with rights and things that need to be outlined specifically. There are how many of them?
I feel like I should really know this without hesitation, but I don't. All right.
Right. All right. Dig, are you ready to go, my friend? Nope, that's not right. It's close, but it's not right. Gene, Dagan says 8. Gene,
26. I was going to say 25, and then I added the little but to make it 26.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that meme of it saying true and false at the same time.
Yeah.
No, that's probably how many amendments there are total, but not in the Bill of Rights.
Oh shit.
Micah.
Oh, that's probably what I got confused.
I put 12.
No, that's close. Oh. There were 12 proposed, I think, but only 10 were ratified. The Bill of Rights is 10.
10. Okay.
Oh man.
I
First Amendment, freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, petition. Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Third Amendment, can't quarter troops. Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. Fifth Amendment, grand jury, double jeopardy, self-incrimination, due process. Sixth Amendment, jury trials, right to confront and to counsel. Seventh Amendment, common lawsuits. Eighth Amendment, excess bail or fines, cruel and unusual punishment. Ninth Amendments, non-enumerated rights, which is one of the most important ones. That basically means just because these rights are listed doesn't mean it's an all-inclusive list of your rights.
Okay.
That's a massively important amendment. And then the 10th Amendment is rights reserved to the states of the people. So that's why things like abortion was recently kicked out to the states because of the 10th Amendment.
States' rights, yeah.
Yeah, but shout out to the 9th Amendment. A lot of people don't give a lot of credit to the 9th Amendment, but it's a really important one because it says that new rights, like either new rights can be discovered and that rights could exist that are not yet enumerated, right? And so just because we're writing these down doesn't mean that you should look at this as your only rights. That's baller, you know? That's a really deep Enlightenment piece of thinking. Anyway.
Did you know that? Do you have those memorized, Kyle?
I brought it up here on Cornell's law school website. I do, but I wouldn't have been able to say it that well. I'd probably still be explaining the Third Amendment.
About guns and, the attorney's rights. Yeah, basically.
For people that are interested, if you are, Cornell, their law.cornell.edu, that website has been for a long time. I mean, since I was studying history, like this amazing repository of constitutional law and constitutional history.
Oh, that's
cool. So it's called the Legal Information Institute. If people want to check it out online, it's all free. Okay.
All right.
I like this one. I'm going to be interested to see if you guys know this.
Okay.
Number 7. Which American president served 2 non-consecutive terms?
Oh, non-consecutive.
There is a president that ran and won, then ran and lost, then ran and won. And it was all against the same person. Sound familiar?
Oh, it also gets the same person. Oh, against the same person.
I'm mad because this is one of those stories that you tell periodically, and I'm just like, that's nice, dear, and now I don't know. I can't remember.
She's just like checked out, like no matter how many times you.
Yeah, I don't blame. I'm not going to sit here and blame her. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't know this.
It's just like that meme of that guy at the baseball stadium, like explaining something to the girl, like going like this, It's like,
yes.
And it was against the same opponent.
That's nice, honey. Would you
I'm
like
trying
some
to think of
popcorn?
eras, but I can't.
Actually, if you want to know an interesting fact, we count, what is it? Biden is the 46th president, but he's the 45th man because this person technically counts twice.
Oh, because he messed up okay.
Yeah, because he fucked everything up because the founders didn't anticipate someone doing that.
Yeah, right.
And it might happen again. Trump would count twice too if he won again. All right.
Interesting.
Dig,
right.
what do you think? Do you have any names here?
Yeah, I'm just going to write one down. I really don't know if this is correct, and this is going back.
No, too early.
Too early.
But good guess.
Okay.
Dagan, I'm sorry, I'm thinking for people that are listening, Dagan said James Madison. Too early. Gene.
This is just my guess.
FDR. No, good guess.
Too.
Yeah.
The only president to serve more than 2 terms. He served 4, 3 and like a couple months before he died. Good guess, though.
I figured it's not him.
Micah.
I said Taft.
No,
that's a good guess too.
Closer in proximity. The answer is Grover Cleveland.
Oh.
Right.
And in fact, Trump was playing around with some Grover Cleveland iconography. And so I don't think they went through with it, but they were playing around with that, like, and reinvoking the idea that a guy who lost will come back and win again. And so that was 1884 he won. 1888 he lost. 1892 he won.
Interesting. Who did he lose to?
Benjamin Harrison. So Benjamin Harrison lost, and then Benjamin Harrison became president, and then Benjamin Harrison lost his reelection. So interesting times in the 1880s and 1890s. Okay. Only a few more.
All right.
Number 8.
God.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I thought this would be fun.
It is fun.
5 presidents were never technically elected, but assumed office as VP. Name 2 of them. So again, 5 presidents were never technically elected, but assumed office as VP. To outline this could be that they ran after they assumed office and lost, so they were never elected, or they just chose not to run after assuming office. There are 5 of them.
There's 5. My goodness.
Can you? No. Oh my God.
Well, what would you like?
I don't understand the question.
All right, so
Can you read it one more time?
5 presidents were never technically elected, but assumed office as VP. So they were vice president and something happened to the president. The president died in office and they became president, but they were never elected president. So either they never ran or they lost when they ran. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get you.
All right. Dig, do you have any?
I
just
have
name
one.
2 of them. There are 5. 2 of them.
I have one. I'm just going to fill in the second one. Not this one.
Johnson and Fillmore. Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
The second one was a complete guess.
Yeah, Zachary Taylor was president, elected 1848. He was a hero of the Mexican-American War. That's when we got Texas and all that. And he died in office. And Millard Fillmore became president, but didn't even win the primary the next time. So he was just president for a couple of years and then out.
What year was that?
Never elected. That was 1850.
Oh, wow.
So right before the Civil War. That's when things were going off. Like that was when things were falling apart in the United States. So it was a bad time. So, and then Johnson, of course. So Johnson was JFK's I'm sorry, not JFK, Lincoln's vice president. Oh, you're talking about Johnson.
I'm talking about
I should have been more clear.
60s Johnson.
Yeah. You're still right because I'm thinking. So Andrew Johnson is the right answer.
Oh.
Lincoln's guy. He was the Congress hated him. He had no chance of being elected, but he became president and almost served a full term because Lincoln was assassinated in the spring of his first term.
Okay, that's not what I meant. So you can't give me points for that. I was thinking Lyndon B.
Lyndon B. Yeah, I'm thinking Andrew Johnson. I should have been clear about that.
Okay.
Okay, Gene, do you have any answers?
No, I only got one, and it was LBJ.
Yeah, LBJ was reelected.
Yeah.
LBJ ran for election in 64 and won.
Oh, see, I don't know if I even knew
so
that.
this was a definite miss for me.
He didn't run. He was so the I think it's the 22nd Amendment. I have to go look, but that's the one, the post FDR Truman era. You can't run more than 2 terms thing. But I think there's a rule that if your term is less than 2 years when you adopt the presidency, 24 months, then you can run 2 full terms. So LBJ was eligible to run in 68, but he didn't. That's when RFK was going to run and he was assassinated.
That's true. Oh my God. That's right.
Okay, Micah, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I wrote Lyndon Big Johnson.
Lyndon Big Johnson.
I know that's not correct.
Okay. Well, it's interesting you all thought that.
Yeah.
I can see that though. The most popular and famous form of this question is Gerald Ford, Nixon's vice president. Nixon resigned
right.
he was elected in 72, resigned in 74. Ford, who was once Speaker of the House, became president of the United States. He ran in the primary in 76, won the primary against Reagan, but then lost the election to Jimmy Carter. So he was never elected. John Tyler was the first person to adopt the Virginia's own. John Tyler was the first person to become president as vice president when William Henry Harrison died days into his term.
Oh, that's who died.
Right.
Yeah.
In 1841, William Henry Harrison was a hero of the War of 1812. And do you guys know the term Tippecanoe and Tyler too? Do you guys remember that at all?
Yes.
That was Tippecanoe was William Henry Harrison. Tyler was John Tyler was the Tyler in that. That was their presidential slogan. And William Henry Harrison famously gave an hours-long inaugural speech in the rain, caught flu, and died.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Longest
inaugural speech ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, exactly. And so John Tyler became president. And you guys should, if you're interested out there, read about John Tyler, because there was no constitutional clarity on what the vice president's power was. And they actually had to go and kind of fuck around with things and figure it out. Because they were like, is he the acting president? Does he have the rights of the president? Like, they didn't really know. It actually wasn't quite outlined. And so you can read a lot about that. They used to call him His Accidency as an insult. And then, we went to Millard Fillmore, who came president when Zachary Taylor died in 1850, Andrew Johnson, like I said. And then the only other one is when James Garfield was assassinated. As we said earlier, Chester Arthur became president, but he didn't even run again. So those are the answers. All right, there are 2 more. Number 9. Which world leader sold the Louisiana Purchase to the United States?
I know this, actually. Wait, do I? Yeah, I think so.
Which world leader sold the Louisiana Purchase to the United States? Thomas Jefferson administration. Big deal. Double the size of the United States. Huge get. This world leader was desperate for the money. Dig, do you have an answer?
I do.
That's right. Very well done. Napoleon Bonaparte.
It's so cute.
Fighting in Europe as he was doing on a constant basis, on an incessant basis over decades, was always in need of capital, and France was unable to protect its lands anyway. So they sold it for a cheap price. Gene, did you get it?
Yes, it is.
Napoleon. Short King, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Short King. Micah?
I did. Napoleon Big Bonaparte.
Right, that's right. Did you put an accent aigu over the E?
I did. Is
that
correct?
would be Bonaparte. No.
Oh.
It just was no accent. That would be parte. Yes.
But I like how you made it more French.
Yeah, you did. Well done. And then the final one, number 10.
Okay.
Which new state was admitted into the Union first following the Revolution? Which was the 14th state?
Oh, into the Union. Mm-hmm.
There were 13 original colonies. They all became states and ratified the Constitution. There was a process to admit new states, which we've done many times. The first of those states, the 14th state, is...
It's a great question. I don't think I know this.
Yeah, I don't know this one.
I'm good. I have to just make a wild guess.
This is a super guess for sure.
It can only be, when you think about it, it can only be certain. Like, there's probably only 5 reasonable answers when you think about it, right? And it would have to be land attached to one of them.
Yeah, but like, that's your brain. I don't know.
You know?
It could be anything. It could be any of them.
That's true.
Man.
All right, Dave, what do you have?
I don't have anything yet.
Oh, you're not ready. I'm sorry. Okay.
All right. We're going to... Oh, shit. I made the wrong answer. I didn't write the right letter I wanted. All right.
I really don't know. All right. I don't.
Which new state was admitted into the Union first following the Revolution?
I'll take a guess. Ready?
West Virginia, no. West Virginia was created in 1863 during the Civil War.
Oh, much later.
Virginia seceded from the Union, and then half of Virginia seceded back to the Union. And that's how West Virginia was.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
That explains a lot
That's
about
why it bothers me that West Virginia gets a lot of bullshit, because West Virginia is a northern state, like through and through, you know?
But that explains a lot about West Virginia.
Yeah, it really does.
It does.
Gene.
I got Kentucky. I know.
That's a good guess, but Kentucky is not right. I think Kentucky is 15th, maybe something like that. 16th. I have to look.
Super close.
Oh, it's close.
Micah.
I wrote New Hampshire.
No, New Hampshire is an original colony.
I don't fucking know.
The answer is, that's close. The answer is Vermont.
I started to make a V and it turned into an N, and I said, you know what? I bet that's like my intuition telling me it's not Vermont, because
Vermont was
original.
Before. I thought it was original. I thought it was OG.
Yeah, no, Vermont was for a brief time a country called the Vermont Republic.
Oh,
and
man.
that was
close.
It was founded by some revolutionaries. It declared independence from Britain and from everything, and then it was adopted into the United States. One of the few countries we've actually taken in, Texas being another one. I'm looking here. Kentucky is 15. I was right. So it's Vermont, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, Louisiana, Indiana.
Oh, Tennessee.
I knew Kentucky was close.
Yeah. Right. You just have to think about it. I think it actually, well, obviously we know there are states later that don't touch each other. California becomes a state long before everything in between. But in that early part, everything kind of gleams off of each other.
Yeah.
Guys, well done. Gene, you won with 6 points as far as my count is concerned here.
All right.
Mike, you had 5 points, Dagan 4.
Okay.
Clean it up.
Respectable. Whoop.
Clean it up.
Not bad. I had a ex-girlfriend who was being naturalized for U.S. citizenship, and that involves a lot of U.S. history. So that kind of brushed me up a little bit about a lot of things.
Should I create some sort of illicit business where I go to immigrants that are getting, naturalized, and I'm like, I will take your American history test for $1,000, and no one has to be the wiser.
Sounds above board.
Yeah, it sounds perfectly legal.
Sounds like how I got through college.
Yeah, if you can pretend to be a Vietnamese woman like my ex-girlfriend, then sure.
I gotta wear like the most sophisticated makeup, like White Girls, that movie White Girls.
Yeah, or like fucking Tropic Thunder or something,
Yeah, exactly.
Helpful but racist. I like it. It's interesting.
By the way, shout out to Ben Affleck. I saw that he was kind of pressed on Tropic Thunder recently, and said they totally stand by that movie and don't have any apologies about it.
Why would you apologize for that movie? I mean, it's insane.
Why?
It's insane.
But I think it's cool to see someone like him be like, no, Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're coming out of that era now. I think we could just have a sense of humor again. Maybe it's going to take a little time, but we're starting a new period. I feel like. I hope. I don't know.
All right.
Maybe we're not. I don't know.
I'd like to think, I kind of agree that we're out of probably the darkest part of it, but I always think there's going to be like some sort of background radiation of this going on forever.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for doing that with me. I thought it was fun. I don't know if you guys did, but you guys let me know out there if the audience likes it. And I know a lot of people were writing in. It was kind of cute. People were playing along at home. Some people were saying they were playing along at work, like with friends at work and stuff. So we're going to get these quizzes going. I'm telling you right now, every so often.
I like it.
All right, Gene, I want to go to you next because you and I were talking briefly before the show and we broached your topic, although I didn't mean to. And ever since that happened, I've been very intrigued by what you have to say here. So I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, my topic is dating, typically, basically modern dating. And I know what you all are thinking, especially the audience. You're like, oh no, this is another opportunity for Gene to talk about how much pussy he gets. No. This is the exact opposite. This is a topic about how little pussy I get.
Oh God,
Gene, you poon hound.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
It's getting vulgar.
No.
Demonetized.
I mean, I've seen that in the comments. They're like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear about how much pussy Gene gets." I'm like, no, this is.
You're becoming a legendary figure. You know that? Like you're becoming a legendary figure. So
it's good. It's as intended.
It's good to ground yourself.
As intended.
Yeah.
I'm a Leo, so that's intended. Dating's been hard, man. I'm 41 years old. The shape of dating has been changed drastically. So much of it is still based on the apps. I recently became single. I broke up with my partner a couple of weeks ago. It was only for a few months. We were actually kind of talking and seeing each other while I was sick, and then now that I'm recovered, we don't need to get too into it, but it just wasn't going to work out.
Right.
So I'm single again, and I'm thinking about whether I should date again. And I'm feeling like I kind of like being single because right now dating is a lot of pressure. Using the apps, it feels. I used it for years because when I first moved to DC, everyone told me everyone here is so type A, so you're not gonna like just meet someone like at the bookstore or something like that. Like you might as well just go on the app and just be like, okay, we're both here on a date. Let's get this over with. Which is so awful. I miss the serendipity of just meeting people. And granted, now the way I used to meet people in my 20s was awful in that I would just be hanging out at the club and just like, getting drunk and seeing who else is drunk and like see how that works out. That was awful. And that always led to some of the worst relationships I've had, some of the shortest lived relationships I've ever had. I guess the shortest relationship I've ever had was like 4 months. Again, this was not through an app. This was in the mid 2000s. She was actually a student when I was guest speaker at her class, and I noticed that she wasn't paying attention. And to me, that drew me because I need you to pay attention to me. I went to speak to her immediately afterwards, and we dated for a while. We're actually good friends. I'm actually friends with all my exes, pretty much. I don't hold any grudges, and for me it's always been useful to have them around to kind of bounce off how I'm like, because like of all the people in the world, these are the women who know me the best. They live with me, they know my ins and outs. So if I have the gut check like, hey, am I actually like this, I actually call my exes, even including my ex-fiance who I'm still in contact with, and then kind of see like, am I losing myself? Was I always like this? So that's always been handy to have. But going back to dating here in DC, it's just been really, really, really hard. Some of the worst dates I've ever been on has been here in DC. I think the worst date I've ever been on was with this Turkish woman. And she has a skill to tell fortunes. She's a fortune teller through coffee. I don't know if you guys ever heard that trick, but Mike has heard of it. But basically you get the coffee grinds and you make a little circle around a coffee cup and then you see what it is. So she wanted to read my fortune. Things seemed to be going well. And then she read my fortune and then immediately she said, I have to go.
My God, it's like a movie.
Wow.
I went all the way out to like Tyson's Corner, like in Virginia. This is like a 40-minute like like taxi ride out there. And she just said, I have to go. And I was like, what's
Like
going
you
on?
were
She's
gonna
like, I just really have to
explode
go.
or
I have to go. And she just left me in like the middle of this like coffee shop. And I was just like, what,
Oh my God.
what the fuck did she see? She couldn't even tell me what she saw, you know? I guess she saw that I was going to have cancer, maybe. I don't know, you know?
She could have told you that and
Maybe
maybe allowed you to
I could prep
prepare
for that, you know? And I was like, okay, well, I'll beat it then, which I did, you know? So,
Hell yeah.
that was terrible. So many dates end up sounding like job interviews. Where we're just kind of like, you know, so what do you like, and you know, what do you do for a living, and I don't know. It's just really hard to meet people, especially since I've become sober. So much of my ability to socialize has been learned through alcohol and engaging via alcohol, and then since I became sober 5 years ago, that's been tough. But dating, it can also be fun, you know. It could also, sometimes people are also just upfront about what they want, you know. I've been involved in many like extramarital relationships here in DC, or polyamorous, where the husband where the husband is totally fine, like with the wife, like just doing whatever. I doubt that the husband is totally fine. That almost never is the case. But the wife is
women, man. I'm telling you.
That's
but the
bigger
wife
in
is
the
just kind of going
suburbs
for
than
it,
you
you know?
think. That's bigger than you think it is.
And so that was always interesting, where it's just like, you know, we understand what this is. This is just a transactional physical relationship.
Yeah, so you've been like the other man.
Oh,
That's
many times. I've been the other man since high school.
That's so interesting. You don't feel like, and I'm not judging you because I never really thought about it. It's not like I've been pulling women in my entire life or anything like that.
Yeah.
To this rate. So it's not like I've had a lot of experience, but do you feel like any moral obligation in that sense, or no? Or is the moral obligation on the woman? I
felt bad because, especially the one in high school. So, you know, a quick rundown of my background is I used to be the moderator of Guam's only chat room. It's called guamchat.com. And I was like the guy. My name was Jack, which is named after, you know, Jack Meridew of Lord of the Flies, and also my cat's name now.
Nice.
So I was a 16-year-old boy hanging around at like bars because they would always have chat meetups, and like a lot of these women were like in their 20s and 30s, and they had husbands, and they were basically creeping on a boy like me, you know. So yeah, I was in high school and I was dating married women. I felt bad because eventually, you know, Guam is super small, you know, it's only like 130,000 people there. So the husband found out who I was. He didn't know I was in high school, so he actually found me at the bus stop. And I was like, dude, I'm still wearing my high school uniform. I did not know that she was married, man. I did not. I really didn't know. So I felt bad for him. They ended up in a divorce, which is great for, you know, both of my guests. But yeah, I've told
you. It's a pelt on your wall. Huh? It's a pelt for you. You're like Boba Fett with your Wookiee pelt.
A hash mark.
Yeah. It was my first scalp, I guess, right? Of my career in cucking, I guess, you know. But again, I haven't always had that, but I've had that here in DC, where there's a lot of people who are married who just want to like just fool around and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
you know, I've met a lot of women who just be like, I'm just here for the sex. Like, I want to have sex tonight. I'm just like, cool. That sounds good to me, you know. But I haven't been able to find anything stable. So I've technically been single like for like 8 years. You know, I was dating somebody for a good 2 years, but it was like on and off, and it wasn't like that serious. Like, she was seeing other people and everything too. But we cared a lot about each other. But yeah, it's just awful to use the apps. You know, my two buddies in Richmond, who are my college buddies, these two guys were like total womanizers in college, right? They were objectifying women, blah blah blah. It's college, whatever, right? They've grown up and they married their college girlfriends. And then when I showed them like how I date, they never saw Tinder or Hinge or Bumble or any of these apps before. So I showed them like what the dating scene like is in DC, and I'm just like going through my app and I'm just flicking, like rejecting all these women. They're like, how could you be doing that? You're just like turning these women into like objects. And I'm like, you understand, you know, you get this. See, you get it, you know, but that's what it is. And it felt, but it does feel kind of awful that I'm just, like
it's a commodity. It's like commodifying.
It's commodifying relationships, like people always joke about like how I met my wife when I was swiping through Tinder on the shitter. And that's what you do. You just go on when I'm at work and I'm on the toilet, I'm just like flicking through. I'm like, she's interesting, or well, maybe I could get to know her better. As I'm just like squeezing one out, So
popping a turtle head.
Yeah, just prairie dogging it, And then I'm just like, oh, maybe we have a lot in common. I should message her and say some sweet nothings. I don't know how to talk on this either. I was never the kind of person who loved texting when I was growing up. So much of this is about texting. So I usually just jump to like, can we just meet and just have a coffee or whatever? It's always, again, hard because so many people drink here in DC. So I always have to be like, I'm sober. You can drink however you like. So I don't know where to take this. Again, I've been engaged before.
Wow.
We still keep in touch. I don't know where to go from this, but
yeah, being friends with your exes is interesting in the sense that I'm open to being friendly with all of my exes, but for different reasons, that's not possible. Whether it's like one of them hates me, which is totally fine. If I were her, I'd hate me too. Not that I necessarily did anything wrong, but I just, from her perspective, I'm sure it wasn't great. Like we broke up and I was quickly with another girl and I'm sure it really hurt. And she hates me for that. And that's totally, we haven't talked in years and years. And then, there's other reasons. Like I've said before, the one I'm friendliest with is my high school girlfriend. And I think that's because there's just nothing, like, it's like a distant ancient memory. She's married and has kids and like, I don't know, it's really not like that, and it's more of like a nostalgic thing, I think, for us, but I don't even speak to her very much at all. I've probably spoken to her once or twice in the last few years. So I'm really interested in your ability to do that. But I think that for me, like my relationships had been, and this is what I wanted to kind of, something I wrote down, a good way to maybe spin on this is just, I feel like a lot of my own relationships and my own experience in dating was not fucked up, but was stopgapped and kind of like halted in place by the like economic necessities of, we're dating for a few months. Why don't we just live together? Then you like end up living together and to save money and do all these things. And, a good friend of mine's in this situation right now and not a great situation because of money. And you find these things like often, it's not that the situations were bad. It's just that all things being equal, we probably shouldn't have been together for 4 years. It's just that like we move too fast or I'm fascinated by all of the outside elements and kind of controls that are placed on relationships, because it's not just like the person meeting the person and being. There's all these extraneous and ulterior things, what people are looking for and all of that, obviously, but also just the realities of dating. And I almost sound like my friend Ramon, but it's like almost capitalism's effect on dating in a sense. And I can't escape that. I've thought about that a lot. Living with people, finding yourself with people, bunking up with people, and I think I would have dated a lot more if like different people, if I just wasn't in those situations several times in my life. And before you know it, those years erode away.
That's exactly what happened with my fiance, where we decided to move in together because it was just cheaper. And she was a student and I was, still young and up and coming reporter. And it just felt like it was too fast, and also it just wouldn't have worked out. Like I still know her and like where her place in life right now. And where I'm at, like, it just wouldn't have worked out anyways, So it's interesting to talk about like wasting time, because I've always been wary about wasting too much time with someone. That was the most recent relationship where we kind of both figured out, this isn't going to work out in the long run, because there might be issues now. These issues are only going to like snowball as we go forward. And a lot of it was like, financial, economical, or situational. She lives somewhere else and I live here in DC. So yeah, just a lot of external factors too.
Yeah, I'm curious, Micah, what's your experience with dating has been more limited, because you were like me where you were in some long-term relationships. But we technically met each other online. I guess that was a first for me because I've never used a dating app. I've never used any of the like hookup apps or anything. It's just, I think you can imagine that's not for me. I mean, I make fun of myself a lot on the show. I'm pretty prude, to be honest with you, as far as a lot of, and Micah knows that, as far as like gratuitous sexuality and shows and all this. I don't know. It's just, I've tried not to circulate my life around my value on this dating marketplace or whatever. And I think I've also just been in these long-term relationships where I've just gone through huge swaths of my life being off the market. But I'm curious what your experience has been.
Yeah, definitely. Colin is my third boyfriend ever. And that's also not to say like I've never been on like a first date with someone that I didn't end up dating. So like I don't have all these like, oh, that was a horrible date and I never saw that guy again. Like I've only dated these 3 people in my entire life. It's kind of weird, but it's because like Colin said, my first relationship, my high school boyfriend, we started dating when I was 17 and we were together almost 8 years. And then after that, my next relationship was almost 2 years. And then after that, I met Colin. So it just is. It's like, yeah, my life, my dating life is been limited to these like pretty long-term serious relationships. But an interesting thing, like when you bring up like wasting time, for example, it always baffles me when people wait until they're like a year into a relationship to be like, wait, you want kids? Or like, they wait until then to be like, oh, I never want to get married. You want to get married? And like, I can't fathom saving those things for last. Because like when Colin and I met, for example, these were things that I brought up within like 2 months of us like long distance dating. I was just like, I just want to get this out of the way. Like, do you want kids? Do you see yourself getting married someday? Because there's just really no point in me, meeting you, having a long-term relationship for me to find out later that like you definitely want kids and it's a deal breaker and I don't type thing. Like, I just can't understand when people save that stuff for so late into a relationship. That's like never made sense to me at all. And like, especially in this era of like internet and app dating, you can put everything on your little profile. You can put like, want kids, want this, want that. And people still hide that stuff. And like my experience with internet dating has actually been, I use Bumble BFF to try and make friends. Because after I moved here, I didn't know anybody since I moved here from Mass.
Yeah,
and that did not go very well.
Yeah, why not?
Like, yeah.
Like most of my friends I've made as an adult, I met at work. And I'm still close with some of my old coworkers from those jobs, but they're all up north. And it's just bizarre, like Jean said, to be swiping through these profiles, and it feels mean to reject people almost. And they don't know you're rejecting them.
Especially just for friendships. You're like, I don't want to be your friend at the very least, even.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Exactly. And
exactly. Yeah,
it's just bizarre. And then also, though, it's people hiding stuff in their profiles of like, you'll swipe on somebody and then they tell you later, like, oh, I actually have like, 3 kids. And it's like, you should have put that on the profile. So I'm not trying to be friends. I'm not trying to go to the park with you and your kids. Wow. I'm trying to go to Chuck E. Cheese with you. Like, It's just interesting in this era of you can put everything right up front. You don't have to be awkward about it. You don't have to start the conversation and say like, I have 5 kids I didn't tell you about. Like, just put it on there. And they still don't.
Yeah. So
that's so odd.
It is.
It's so weird that
really
you think
weird.
Are these men that are hiding that information?
Oh, no, like Bumble BFF is like, for me, it's set to women only.
Okay.
Because I'm just trying to, that's like the hardest part is actually just trying to find women that like video games. It's not like a deal breaker, but so many of them just hate it. So many women are like, I hate video games. They're dumb. And I'm like, fuck you. So like, I'm just trying to find like one weird woman who likes video games and Starbucks and, wants to go to a craft fair once in a while. Like, that's it. And it's been like really, really hard. But it's just like, that makes it even stranger. Because like you said, they're just trying to make friends here. So like, why are you hiding stuff, man? Like, what's the deal? But if that's how it is making friends, I can't imagine what it's like on the dating landscape.
Yeah. I feel bad for you too, because it's like, we're very different in the sense that I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like I have enough. I keep thinking like I have so many people in my life that I love that don't get nearly enough Colin that I couldn't even fathom voluntarily drafting another person into my life at this point. it would be almost rude to everyone else, you know, where I'm like, I'm barely available to do anything anyway. So it's so funny. We're on opposite ends of the spectrum, and I know how much that means, like finding a good friend means to you. And it's been interesting to watch from the outside, especially because we know Dustin's wife would be a very good, close friend if you guys were together, but he just lives in another place. So your person's out there, but certainly, you know, it's like believing, do you have one true love out there? Like I've never believed that. No. And so obviously, you know, you have another true friend, a true friend out there somewhere.
I deleted I stopped like a month ago because I just got sick of it.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, you'll get back into the breach at some point.
Don't give up. If there's
I'm just
one
a
out
lone
there,
wolf.
Oh, you'll find somebody. You can't give up. That stuff takes time. It takes time to make a connection. It doesn't matter if it's romantic or on a friendship level.
It gets harder when you get older, though, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. And like, also, I consider this catfishing. There was a woman who had 2 Boston Terriers all over her profile. And I was like, hell yeah, we're going to be best friends. They weren't her dogs. They weren't hers.
Yeah, that was catfishing. When we found that out, I was like,
that lied to me.
It's unbelievable.
So I actually
we of course have 2 Bostons. That's the reason.
I actually got catfish in the 90s. Have I talked about it before? No. When I was a moderator of the chat room, you know, these girls would send me pictures, and it would just not be them when I meet them. You know,
oh my gosh.
It was insane. And it wasn't called catfishing before. I was just like, you were just tricking me.
They were inventing it.
You know?
Dude, can I just talk to you? Can I? Gene, I'm sure you know this because you and I watch a lot of the same like degenerate YouTube stuff, but the guys that catch or that like convince old people that they're being catfished. Have you seen this channel? I have to send this to you. There's these guys, I think it's called Catfish TV or something. It's something like straight up like that. I don't know exactly what it's called. I'll find it for you though. And it's basically old people that are being so blatantly catfished over often years for sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars and all these crazy things. And these people come in and basically have to prove to them beyond a reasonable doubt that these people are not real. It's like a reverse investigation, basically. It's interesting. And you feel bad for these people. These people there's like, dude, there are people out there that are like, man, I don't know what you are thinking. These people in Eastern Europe or whoever are taking advantage of you or in Africa are loving you. And it's so, I don't know. It's so the catfishing thing is, it's much like many things, it could be used as entertainment. Although I think MTV was the one that first discovered that, not YouTube.
Yeah, and also, you know, speaking of Hawaii, there's also the famous football player Manti Te'o, who was
that's right, with his fake girlfriend.
Yeah, with his fake girlfriend Lene Kakua.
There's a whole documentary, isn't there?
There's a whole documentary on Netflix.
Oh, is there really?
Fascinating and so depressing to watch because it's like, dude, how could you not like see this?
So sad.
Yeah, he ended up becoming a good NFL player.
Yeah, he's good, and he's got a beautiful girlfriend, you know. So good for him.
A real beautiful girlfriend.
An actual.
He went to Notre Dame, right, or something like that. I think something like that.
Oh wow.
All right, my friends. Dagan.
Yeah.
I want to know what you have to say about this topic.
I find this fascinating, and I love hearing people's perspectives on it because, well, where do I start with this? My wife, Colin, we met in spring of '96, and we've been together ever since. So there's a lot to say. Our 21st wedding anniversary is coming up in a few weeks, and Helene and I were actually together for 6 years more than that. So we've been together like the better part of 30 years, 27 years. So there's so much to say for me and so much wonderment because, first of all, we both completely missed online dating. And now dating in the world and with the advent of social media, we missed all of that. In fact, we've been saying for years, we're going to go online and start dating profiles just to see who wins. But I'm not going to play that. Are you kidding me? Look at me and look at Helene. Who do you think is going to win that one? You know what I mean? I'll be in Micah's situation only romantically. There'll be a drought, you know, and she'll get all these hits and everything. So I'm not going to play that, but we're both fascinated by it because we completely missed that. And I never got to date as a young professional. My dating life stopped while we were still in college because Colleen and I graduated in '98. So we met halfway through college. And my great lament, honestly, in thinking about all this and hearing your stories, is that I don't have any bad date stories, which I love storytelling. And that would be, what better fodder can there be for a great story than bad dates? I never really had one. I think back to my period of dating, you know, in high school and the first half of college. And I would say growing up in New York as a Gen Xer on Long Island, this is certainly the case for me, but I think it probably speaks to Gen X on the whole as a generation universally. But the way it went for dating for me in my young life, like let's say late in junior high and throughout high school, if you weren't dating somebody in your vicinity, meaning somebody you grew up with, somebody in your neighborhood, somebody you went to school with, then it always kind of had the same trajectory. I would meet a girl, right? Let's say at a club or at a rave or at the mall, anywhere, right? And it would always take the same sort of cadence. We would hang out as groups, right? We would meet that first night, exchange phone numbers, then it would be a group thing. So I would bring a wingman, she would bring a wing woman, maybe it was groups, maybe it was 3 girls and 3 guys. And the first 2 or 3 or 4 times we hung out was in a group atmosphere. And you're flirting and you're sort of feeling it out, whether you were going bowling or going to the movies or you were going to the beach or just walking around, whatever it was. It was always kind of low key and it was always kind of a low expectation thing. And it was just fun. And I kind of think back to that and I kind of like the easy breezy nature of just being able to meet somebody and feel it out in a group because it was low pressure and just easy. So if it went well in that group setting, a few dates in, quote unquote dates in, then you would detach from the group and then you were kind of thrust into it and you were officially going out dating and then
courtship. And
it was a courtship without, the movies we grew up with where it was like this high pressure thing where you're having a date at the restaurant and who pays and we're going steady and I'm wearing your jacket. It wasn't. In the 80s and 90s, we had already grown out of that. It was much different than the dating world that, for instance, our parents grew up in, at least in the Western, in the Western world. It was much different. And I thought it was really actually kind of fun. And then you would date, right, for a few months or a few years or whatever. I met a girl late in high school and it was my first long-term relationship. She graduated and went to Pace. She went to college in Lower Manhattan, and I went to art school in Philly. We did the long distance thing for a while. I think we kind of dated the better part of 3 years, and we just couldn't get through that 100-mile apart hump or whatever. And then in 95, that was my year to just have fun. And I dated a lot of cute girls, but it was never just a physical thing with me. I was always kind of a romantic. I looked for that connection with a girl. I always kind of wanted the substance and the sense of humor, intelligence, personality, hobbies. I always wanted to connect on a deeper level. That was always my thing. I always found that the looks were always there. That's always kind of like the preemptive thing is like you're attracted by the looks and all that kind of physical stuff is great. But I enjoyed that 1 year, 95, maybe early 96, where I wasn't rushing through girls on purpose. I just met girls. We dated. It was fun maybe for a little while. There was maybe a component missing. Maybe that chemistry was just a little shy where it should be.
You were running through them hoes?
That was such a short lived, like it didn't see, even thinking back, it didn't seem like it was only a year. It was just really because Helene and I met in our early 20s and just connected on such a deep level. And we're just, that was it. We were an item. My time dating was so short-lived and I was so young, but it was fun. And I think she went through the same thing where you're just kind of learning what you need in a relationship and what you're attracted to. And it's really kind of an educational process. And I guess that was enough time for me. But that was the thing. I think thinking back to dating, it's the adventure and the excitement. Again, coming back to that romantic thing of like, there's something really charming and appealing about you could meet anywhere. You could meet pumping gas or at a supermarket or walking down the street. The idea of that Hollywood cute meet, I think that's just a cute aspect of life. I think that's just a fun aspect of life that the person's out there for you and you're just it's complete chance, right? You just run into each other, you meet. I think about Helene growing up in the Philadelphia area, me growing up on Long Island. We were kind of running parallel, but never met, never coincided until we were 21 years old or something, 22 years old. So I think that's the fascinating aspect of dating where I don't feel like I missed out because I got attached to, my quote unquote soulmate so early. But I think that's the appealing part for me, is the excitement and adventure of meeting somebody that feels like they're made for you, or at least, it's never 100%, but like 80% made for you, or somebody that you could attach to on a really deep level. I mean, how much luck is involved in that? Because first you have to get through the physical hurdle, right? And then all of the other stuff. It's so complicated, not only to meet and agree to start something together, but the luck involved of actually staying together and being together long term, whatever long term means, a year, 2 years, 20 years, 50-year wedding anniversary, like you see some people like our grandparents call. There's so much involved, so much complexity. It's kind of like one of those magical things in life. There's something other than what we could wrap our heads around involved in the whole thing. And I think that's what makes it kind of cool and special. One thing I learned about myself in thinking about dating, and now having kids old enough to start getting into dating, is I would be, if I was an adult now in my 40s, a professional with a career and origins and a family, and if I, God forbid, ever got divorced, the baggage that comes with that, I would still adopt the same very traditional philosophies that I've always felt. Like, for instance, I was always a big proponent of not dating where you work. Helene thinks I'm crazy about that because she's the one who says, like, that's where you're going to meet people. That's just the essence of life. That's the cadence of, that's where you're going to meet people. That's where you're spending so much of your time. And I'm like, no, but you don't shit where you eat.
You don't shit where you eat.
And I'm going to tell my kids the same thing.
You do. No, because then there are perks to dating your coworkers. We're not going to get into that, but there's perks to dating your coworkers.
There definitely is. And I think I'm learning that it's a generational thing too, because me being a Gen Xer, I think we're still very much of the baby boomers. And that was the philosophy and the mentality they adopted and passed on, when I was born in the 70s. So and you know what? Also, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, because it's very easy for me to say that, because I know, knock on wood, that I've not only am I going to be set, I've been set in my romantic relationship life. That's already been established for me. So I could say I wouldn't do that type of thing. But there is something about keeping those worlds separate that seems like wisdom to me. But again, maybe a little too conservative. Maybe I'm just maybe I have too many conservative philosophies when it comes to things that you don't necessarily have to be so serious about.
It's a little modern. It's a little modern to not date your coworkers, though, because there's always HR violations and everything. For me,
I'd be horrified now.
Imagine the eggshells that you would have to walk around, especially in this climate right now, to be able to flirt with your coworker,
just hiding
in the place of profession, right?
Sure.
For me personally, I could never date another fucking journalist. I fucking hate journalists. Like,
you need a break from that world.
Insufferable people. I would never ever date another journalist. Dagan, it's interesting that you bring up about dating as a young professional too, because it also reminds me that I have been on many dates here on DC where the girls were also dating my coworkers. Not at the same time. Sometimes it's at the same time, but oftentimes they would be like, "Oh, you're like the fifth Washington Post guy that I've dated," and I started to realize that there is a genre of women who are just like racking up points within the newsroom. Which was a little startling, and it's disturbing, because then like my literal editor right now like went on a date with one of my past girlfriends.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the White House reporters, congressional reporters, editors, they'd be like,
"Oh, you know like how my sloppy seconds."
That world's colliding.
Well, that's the thing, though. I'm the one still eating, right?
There you go.
I'm the one still having the meal.
You're kind of winning there.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
If I might, there were two other things I wanted to note that I thought was interesting, Gene, that came to mind for me that I'd be curious to know what you guys think about.
Yeah.
You, Gene, and you and others. One night stands. Just never did it.
No, me either.
I'm not proud of my quote unquote body count. I wish it wasn't it's not that high, but I wish it wasn't as high as it was. A lot of them are like, but I never slept with anyone I didn't just know. Like, and it was never awkward or weird. And I look back at my experience. I used to really be kind of, to be honest, like regretful, being like, you are so dumb. You know how many women you could have slept with that you, in college, even in high school, when I was in high school, college and onwards, like you could have tripled, quadrupled how many women you slept with if you wanted to. You were just so prude and weird. You didn't want to reciprocate or do anything. But I'm kind of proud of that now, because I think back at some of those things and I'm like, that didn't really help me get to here. You know, that those are cool in the moment, but I'm kind of sketched out by like the alternate history of it. Actually, when I was younger, I used to be like, you were so stupid. You know, my 20s when I left and looked back at college, and it's like, how did you not know that this girl was like trying to get with you? How did you not know that? It's like none of it really matters, you know, because like you end up with, at least in my experience, I ended and I wrote this down, the pretty girl from the past, probably 11 years consecutively were occupied by two girls that were categorized like that for me, one from high school and one from college that I dated after both, you know? And I think like Dagan, I had more of a romantic side of me. Not even a literal romantic side, but just of like, you find your person and you remain faithful and you kind of go after this person and you do what you need to do. And that's how it goes. But it's no offense to the people. They're great people. It's just, you know, it wasn't the right connections, but a lot of wasted time, to the point where I almost couldn't imagine being 21, 22, 23, still being with those people.
Oh yeah.
Because I am so different nonetheless them. And so finding Micah as I did in my mid 30s into my late 30s, and we're 10 years apart, 9 years right now. What is it? 9 years and change.
Yeah.
And your birthday's coming up, your big birthday.
Yeah.
You're a birthday girl.
That's a big one for you.
30.
Guys
I had a huge birthday party when I hit 30.
30 is a big, 30's a milestone that did not bother. We talked about that on the birthday episode. Didn't bother me. So don't fear it, Micah. Have you guys, I wanted to throw this to you guys. As you're talking, I'm thinking that I made this mistake a few times. You don't know it's a mistake at the time, but have you guys ever done the thing where it's pure physical attraction, and it's pretty strong. It's pretty heated, but you kind of know in your heart of hearts that that's all it is. Like there's not going to be a connection on a deeper level. You're just too different. There's no chemistry really beyond that. The personalities don't mesh, but you kind of do it anyway and then regret it. I went through a brief period of time we're dating where I did that a couple of times, knowing it was not going to work. So I wanted to toss that to you guys. But also the other thing that I did, not one night stands, but I had friendships with girls. This happened maybe 3 or 4 times in high school and the first half of college, where there was definitely an attraction, but it was a friendship and it was platonic. But at some point you decide that you can't resist, and you're gonna go into something physical. And again, 3 or 4 times where it happens, and you have that physical relationship one time, and then you go back to being friends, but you just couldn't escape the urge to try to see how it is, even though you know the friendship is either more important or maybe it just works better on a friendship level. But I've done that 3 or 4 times where it didn't destroy the friendship. We actually went back to the friendship having had to, I guess, get it out of our system. So I'll throw that over to you two guys, or you three, for if that ever occurred, because that is something I experienced.
I guess I'm the sexual degenerate out of this group, because I've had many one night stands, more since I've gotten older, actually, because I was in pretty committed relationships in my 20s. But since I moved to DC, obviously, again, I've been single. So all I've had is one night stands. That's it, where I just like meet a girl and we just hook up. And then, by 9 p.m., I'm hungry. So I just ask them to leave and that's it, I talked about that recently in my stream where I asked my listeners, have you ever had sex? And someone were like, oh, yeah, every once in a while. And it's like, like I'm really enjoying playing Zelda right now, but I'm interested in going back to like Xenoblade Chronicles and Resident Evil 4. So it's kind of like having sex and like thinking about the meal that I'm gonna have afterwards. Like I obsess, like while I would have sex, I would be obsessing over the meal I'm having afterwards. I'm enthralled with the experience that I'm having, whether it's sex or Zelda, and I'm not gonna leave that experience anytime soon. I'm still good, but I'm really, really excited about what happens afterwards, which is, having a nice juicy burger or pizza or something, and that's a lot of my one night stands where I'm just saying, all right, well, got that out of the way. What am I going to eat now? What video game am I going to play until 1:00 in the morning?
I could see that becoming more natural. I think you and I are maybe built similarly in that way, where I could see that becoming easier as I got older too. Mm-hmm. Like falling into that, or being in that. It's not even falling into that. If that's the way you want to be. It's no judgments for me. Yeah. I just know I'm too sensitive to live that, to really have lived that life. And even like I said before, you shouldn't shit where you eat. Doesn't mean I didn't, and it's not like that made things complicated and weird sometimes too. But I must say, I never really had a catastrophic end to anything or whatever. I think I've managed things pretty well. And what I really tried to focus on at like post my last relationship when I left California was to just be alone for a while,
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, where I'm just kind of like feeling things out. And you're right in that I used to be really emotionally sensitive, and like I'm like younger me would probably get attached to the people I sleep with, right? But now that I'm older and I'm a lot more confident in myself, I feel a lot more sure about myself, about my body and how I look and how I am. It's just fine. It's just whatever. It's just sex. And I know I'm not like the most handsome person, so I still feel grateful for the experiences I've had, and I'm still continuing to have. I have friends, Dagan, that right now where I still have like sexual relationships, and that's it. I said that this wasn't going to be about how much ass I get, but I mean, just the other month, I invited a friend over to watch the Tetris movie on Apple TV. And then, she was kind of bored with it. And she was just like, do you just want a blowjob? And I was like, sure, why
not? Well, it's Tetris. It's like kind of sexual. It's like one thing going into the other.
A little bit, yeah. So,
it's a little phallic. Yeah, you're waiting for that. You're setting it all up for that one straight line to come in, and score. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So that's what I landed, and that was it. And then we finished the movie. That's it.
I'm intrigued that I just wonder, you wonder about how it would be had you, didn't land in your current situation. Like, I don't know how it is to date out of my 20s, in my adult life. I never got to date with $2 in my pocket. I was always super poor because I was still in college. I didn't have an established career. I didn't have my own place. Like, I never got to experience any of that stuff. And some, a lot of it, I'm super grateful. But that I got lucky. I'm one of the people that got lucky. Yeah. I met somebody.
You're all very lucky.
It's luck. Yeah. It's definitely luck. But it does sound fun, and it sounds like an adventure. And I don't know how you could resist in being single now. I could see taking periods off and taking breaks or hiatus. But online dating is such a wonderful vehicle for meeting people, because I crave the excitement and adventure of the cute meet out on the street, go to town, get a slice of pizza.
Serendipity. I love that word, and I love the concept of it.
It's so good. But online dating it's practical. It's efficient. You could really meet somebody. You get a laundry list of people in your area, in your proximity, with your interests. Maybe it's people that you're attracted to. Hopefully they're not catfishing and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of neat. Like, I kind of like, I'm living vicariously through you, Gene.
I will say that it's worse since my profile has grown over the years, especially here in DC. So I deleted all the apps, partially because when I do swipe, I get messages like, "Oh my God, are you actually Gene Park?" And I'm just like, I actually can't deal with that.
I didn't even think of that.
You got to get with a matchmaker of some sort.
Celebrity aspect.
I guess, yeah.
Like,
and also, like, I don't want to be like,
agency.
oh my God, there's Gene Park, and then someone fucking tweets about it and like makes fun of my profile or whatever. Like,
Right. That's a danger. That would be dangerous.
Yeah, that happened to my friend Kat recently, where, you know, like she's 24 and like this guy is like 50, so it was actually kind of an own on him that his age range on Tinder was 22 to 50.
Suspect.
So.
Yeah, I think I must say, as parting knowledge, I guess, as we get out of this topic soon, is I feel really lucky to have found Micah, specifically because I think in my own life it's funny, like I had really reached a point when I left California where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you know, when you tell yourself you're gonna not be with anyone, or it's like I'm never gonna drink again when I'm hungover or something, kind of thing, and then you get back into a relationship or you find someone or whatever. I really was feeling that, and feeling it, for the first time, accepting being alone and just being like, this is it for at least a while. I'm just gonna ride. And that's when I bought the house and kind of lived here and just roamed around naked most of the time and hung out with Rush. In the house, I was naked, not around the neighborhood. Okay. And I kind of, I lived the adage that these things do happen when you least expect it, or when you're not necessarily looking for it.
Yep.
And that's how we found each other first as friends, and then as more than friends, and we're engaged now. But I'm not saying it because we're here together now. I'm earnestly saying this as someone who's 38 and has some wisdom and knowledge about my own life, is that I have developed a unique sort of comfort and attachment that I'd never had before. And those things do happen when, like, I thought I was in love. I think I was in love a few times, but the definition of that word changes. And when you look back and declare and kind of, or rather differentiate between that love and the love I feel now, like that isn't really love. That's some other definition of love, but it's not what I feel now. And so I think that those things just kind of come out of the sky. That's why I feel like I get dating apps, I get all of the tools, but at the same time, it's what you were saying, Gene, at the top, which was the more organic way of meeting someone it's difficult, especially when you're in the same area or in the same business or in the same company and all of that. And I get it. And I'd be frustrated about that too. And so I feel really fortunate because I started looking for someone more similar to myself. I was always about finding the like polar opposite to me. And I've said before, like my girlfriend in college was like a sorority girl.
Well, that's interesting.
You know? And I was like I just wore sweatshirts and, you know, baggy jeans,
you're the video game
button
boy.
downs,
yeah.
and I was just exactly. And my high school girlfriend was a figure skater, you know, so like I gravitated.
Oh, that's awesome.
Towards like that kind of thing, you know, and then I just was like, I should look for someone I should be more receptive and open to being like, I could date a nerd. I always wanted to get away from it. I was like, I can't stand this shit. Like there were times where I was like, I can't stand this anymore. When you work at IGN and you live with all these guys and you do all this, like, oh my God, I can't take it. And you like want some sort of normalcy, but then I embraced, it's like, no, put your shoulder into the abnormal nature of your life and find someone that's like you that wants to ride like that. And I did. And I think that's something I should have been more open to earlier. But that only comes with wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It does. I only just realized that right now. You know, obviously, you know my dating history. That, you know, pageant queens and, you know, fashion designers. These are all like people that are like outside my wheelhouse of culture, I guess. You know, I never dated another person who played video games before, ever. Period. You know, it's always
it's a first for me too. Like someone that understands them, it's a first for me.
Yeah, it's always
my hot gamer girl.
Yeah, it's always an issue. First of all, they're always married or taken already, right? And you know, like Micah said, like I'm not catfishing anyone. I put that I play video games on my profile. You know, I let people know because, like, you know, when there's a new Zelda or Final Fantasy coming out, like I'm going to ignore you. Like I'm straight up, I'm just straight up honest. Like you are not going to be my priority during like the next 2 weeks of this release. That's it. You have to understand that. You have to know it, and you have to be cool with it, or play with me. You know,
right? Yeah, that was my thing too. Is that the women that I was with were either not interested or would play a little bit because of me. But I never ever until Micah dated someone that played games. And I don't know why I didn't realize like what kind of weird sticking point that was. Even if it wasn't literally one, it still existed where we had these separate, like that's a time consuming hobby that, am I going to spend 40 hours playing Forspoken? Yeah, I'm going to spend 40 hours playing Forspoken. Of course,
Colin, we need to do the world's only Forspoken spoiler cast.
Yeah, we should.
Audience of like 5.
Exactly. We should sit down and talk about that game. That would be interesting, actually, because I don't think it was that bad.
I liked it. I just
think it's not. I'm not a fucking 15-year-old girl. You know, I don't think it's really written for me. But
that's exactly it. It's written for teenage girls. It's like if I was within that market, then I'd be like, oh, this game is great. I feel inspired by it. You know, like whoever might watch the new Little Mermaid or whatever. You know,
right. Which is both looks great and unsettling at the same time. Why is it so real looking?
I don't know.
It's very
strange. Just give me something.
You watched Guy Ritchie's Aladdin?
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, yeah.
I
forgot about that one.
I can't.
I didn't know Guy Ritchie did that.
I can't believe someone with his talent was just that his talent was just chiseled down to nothingness in that project.
He wanted that Disney money, man.
Yeah,
and it's Will Smith, so didn't
pre-slap.
Yeah,
pre-slap and Jada Pinkett Smith like relationship woes or whatever. Well, at least before any of us knew about it. So
yeah.
Micah, do you have anything you want to say before we part?
I'm just going to say, date your coworkers, date your friends. Don't listen to these old people. All right. The only people I've ever dated were my friends. Did it sometimes like ruin a friendship? Sure, but it's worth the risk. Like it's worth the risk to ruin a friendship to maybe get your soulmate out of it. Like it sucks that like my ex and I were best friends. Now we don't talk anymore. That sucks. But it was worth taking that year and a half to see like if there was something there type thing. And I was friends with Colin. And I was like, this could ruin all of it. But like, what am I going to do? Not try and date this guy? Like, why not? So, date your friends, date your coworkers. All right. You can get another job. Like nothing's permanent. So you just do it. You like someone, take the shot. Every person I've dated, I asked them out generally.
Okay.
So that's also the thing. It's like, just take the shot. You're not going to die if they say no. You're not just going to wither away into a little clamshell. Like, just do it.
Man, I've never had a girl just ask me out before. That would be intense.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really had that either.
I don't know.
Yeah. But that's the thing is that it's funny when it comes up like people I've dated, like I don't consider my girlfriends people I've dated. Because that was, we didn't really date. It was something different.
Yeah, it was something different.
I actually did have women that, like a few women where I was like, I dated them. And that's like, yeah, that to me was, those were not bad experiences, but they were just, I could see where I could get a little taste of like, yeah, this is what the dating scene, quote unquote, looks like, where you kind of just trying things out. But I am grateful. And, I think part of it is that there is something about, and I don't know, Mike and I talk about this sometimes, but our age difference, there is something about that I think helped us be in the same place in our lives at the same time, just for our respective individual statuses or whatever, where I think men are, especially modern men in San Francisco and all these places I lived, are slow to come up, Yeah. It was weird as my friends peeled off to get married, but it happened later and still hasn't happened for a lot of them, which is fine. But
that's how it is now.
But so by the time I became like, oh, I should probably, have a settle down kind of mode, the woman 10 years behind you is ready to go. More so than maybe the woman who's 10 years ahead, who might have already had an experience or already been married or whatever.
Oh, yeah, they're not looking for anything serious. Absolutely. Sure. I've dated so many older women here and they're not looking for anything serious. Like most of my one night stands have been like 30 and 40-year-old women. So
makes sense, actually, when you think about it, right? Yeah.
So I think we're fortunate, but I think that kind of worked to our advantage too, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I also, no offense to anyone, but one of the hurdles is like when you're dating someone in your late 30s and half of them already have children. And that's a really big commitment to be like, just to look at it long term, to be someone's stepdad, to have to deal with their problems with their ex. Like the kids could be 100% awesome kids. Their ex could be horrible to deal with. Like, if you want to step into that situation, like God bless you, but like most people don't.
Yeah.
And that is part of where our like age gap helped, because no, I don't have any kids yet. And most women that are like 38 and up usually have one. Like most of these women already have one by now,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
no,
like an ex to deal with.
My stunted adulthood, in other words, had us synced up beautifully.
Basically.
Gene, you were going to say something?
No, yeah, that's what happened to me. I was dating a woman who was older than me, and she had a kid, and he was like 13 when we were dating. And it scared me when I realized I have more in common with the fucking kid than I do with her. You know, because like I was sitting with him playing Final Fantasy, you know, and it's like, and I was having a great time with this kid. And I was just like, I can't like be this kid's father, man. Like that's
You're the dad that stepped up.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah,
Micah and I always say that you're not the stepdad, you're the dad that stepped up.
Yeah. I was
That's
like,
like
I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So like I broke up with her like immediately. I feel bad. But once I realized like I really like having fun with this kid, and I don't want to be in this situation.
Yeah, you gotta be true to yourself, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I felt awful, but whatever. She's doing good. She got me married.
All right,
Yeah,
Gina,
she
are you
wanted to see
satisfied
me on
with
her
your
fucking wedding day, which was insane. I was just like,
wait, what? Say that again.
She wanted to see me on her wedding day.
Wow.
I'm just like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Like, why do you want to see me? You know,
That's suspicious.
It's very suspicious.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
She wanted you to be the guy in the church that has the objection.
Yeah, I guess, you know. I was like,
She's
what are we gonna
plant
do?
you out
Or
there.
something? You know? What the fuck? You know.
All right, Gina, are you satisfied with the topic?
Absolutely.
All right, my friend, let's move on. Micah, I want to hear from you.
All right, guys, this is going to be a fun one, I think, because this is a topic I wanted to do for a little bit, but I was kind of waiting until I felt more inspired about it. I kind of wanted to have a reason to bring this up. And the topic is your favorite smells. And the reason why I bring this up was because on Monday, I was making a steak dinner for Colin. And so I was outside, I was doing corn on the cob. I did it on the grill. All right, I'm getting pretty proficient with the grill, if I do say so myself. But I'm outside and I'm shucking the corn, and the smell of that fresh corn immediately brought me back to I'm a kid. You know, my sister and I are shucking the corn on the back porch to help with dinner, because all summer that was like our chore of like whenever we had corn on the cob, that was our job. And just that memory was just so vivid, because I'm starting to, as I get older, forget what my childhood home looked like. And it really bums me out sometimes to realize that I can't remember like the sequence of rooms anymore. I walk in the front door and I'm like, I think this was the living room. I think next was this. And it's just getting so fuzzy at this point that I really don't see it anymore. But that one moment of smelling that fresh corn on the cob really did just bring back, wow, I can see our back porch, and we had our paper bag from Big Y and we're putting the corn husks in it. And it just was such a powerful memory. So I wanted to kind of bring up, they don't all have to be like nostalgic or anything, because on my list, some of my favorite smells are just weird and a big surprise, but because I'm going to save my absolute favorite smell for last, and it's maybe the most controversial. But I just wanted to go through and collect from you guys as well your favorite scents and aromas, maybe what they mean to you. The other one I had on my list was my grandpa wore Stetson cologne, which Stetson is just like a classic men's cologne. And I just always remember that's what he smelled like. He died when I was 10. And it was maybe 13 years later, I'm working at a department store and I'm in the makeup department and I get a whiff of it. And I was just like, what is that smell? Like, that's grandpa's cologne. And I'm looking at all the men's colognes until I find it, because I didn't know the name of it when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized that's the one. And so that was just a really powerful memory of like, wow, to smell that again after all these years, and to just never have really known, never put context to it of like what it was. So that's just like a classic men's cologne, very popular still. Another really distinct one, my mom making blueberry muffins, waking up on like a Saturday, and the first thing you smell is like that scent of like that crispy sugar on top and everything. Those memories of you're waking up to mom's making breakfast, dad's making breakfast, that type of thing. And conversely, like bread dough. That's a favorite. I love baking bread.
That's a good one.
I bake a lot. And just that smell when the dough's rising, it's like that warm, yeasty type smell. That's a favorite that always gets me. And these are the weird ones. These are the ones that people don't really understand. This one's very specific. You have to have a window unit AC, and it's the air coming right out of that vent. You got to put your nose right up to the vent. It is the purest air. It's like you're like on top of a mountain.
That's like Freon or something that you like.
Oh my God.
Machine.
It's so good though. There is something very specific about window unit AC. And you got to put your nose right up to it. It smells so good. Because the other thing that goes with that is when you're in the car and you have the vents on full and you stick your tongue out so your tongue gets all dried out, and then you put your tongue back in your mouth, and it kind of goes with that, the smell. But that's one of my favorite things.
That's Freon.
Well, the tongue getting dried out is part of it. Like it's a whole suite. That's an ensemble of what you have here.
Right on.
And I recommend everyone do that. Go in your car and you got to turn the vents on full. You got to stick your tongue out in front of it, and you'll get nice and dry. And you put your tongue back in your mouth. You just got to try it. You got to trust me on this. This is my all-time favorite smell in the whole world. And this is something I realized with great lament that I'll probably never smell again. It's the smell of a full vacuum bag. Because nobody uses vacuum bags anymore. But you're vacuuming and the bag is like real full and you get that really good dusty smell, like that real good, like it's kicking it back out into the air basically.
I get it. Yeah. No, I remember that.
I know what the smell you're talking about. Yeah.
It's my favorite smell in the whole world. And when I worked at a different store at one point, and I would always get to vacuum the carpet, and my boss knew I liked the dusty smell.
Oh,
so she would say, like, you can go vacuum if you want. And I would just I wouldn't change the bag like on purpose. I would just like leave it full. The vacuum isn't even hardly picking anything up, but I'd just fill in the air with that delightful aroma. And that's a smell though that I'm realizing I haven't smelled it in years because I haven't owned a vacuum with a bag. Like since I worked there, probably is the last time I've smelled it. And it's still fresh in my mind. It's a smell that I can remember, but like I'm like quite sad to realize my favorite smell in the whole world. I might not ever smell it again.
The vacuum bag was a racket, man. I can't believe that we went along with that for like 100 years.
Vacuum bags, yeah.
When you think about it, it's like, what? Why did it have to be this way? Why couldn't it always have been a container?
I
don't really get it.
The only people who still buy bagged vacuums are if you do need it for like asthma, like children with severe asthma type thing. Filter. You can still get the like HEPA filter vacuums. But otherwise, who's buying those? Certainly not me, not at this point, which means that I don't get to smell my favorite dusty smell. So anyways, I wanted to ask you guys what your favorite smells are. They're probably not as weird as those, but that's the topic. His favorite smells. I'd really like to start with Dagan, because I have to imagine maybe something related to grandma's kitchen, I don't know, might come up, but I'm very curious what Dagan's thoughts are.
Definitely. Yeah. So many thoughts were conjured when you emailed about this one. It's a great one. That sent me on a stroll down memory lane for sure. You just reminded me of something hilarious though that's kind of attached to this. Our friend Josh growing up had a dog named Allie, very shaggy sheepdog. Like think Benji. If you guys remember Benji, but a little bigger than that. And this dog was, I'd never seen anything like this before, was addicted to the carbon monoxide coming out of the tailpipe of cars. So before you started the car in the driveway, you had to make sure Allie was inside or she would come huff the exhaust, the muffler, until she passed out. And the fear was Allie's going to suck on the exhaust and then pass out, and you're going to back over her. Oh my God. And I remember on a couple of occasions, I thought they were kidding. And when I finally saw Allie unleashed, she would huff on the hot muffler until she passed out. She was like addicted. It was the weirdest thing. So that was Allie's favorite smell. I don't know how this dog must have had no brain cells left. And I've never heard of this being a thing, even a little bit. Like this dog was a complete anomaly. So I don't know. I was just laughing as you were talking about huffing the air conditioner fumes. You're talking about.
It's so good though. It's like pure Everest air coming out of a window AC unit.
Some people like John Denver would say that was high in the Rockies. You say it's from the window AC unit. I mean, who's to say? Who's to say, Micah? But for me, you know what? I thought of a few things. The first thing I thought of, I don't know why I thought of this. Kyle, you may remember this. Our mom, I never saw somebody so avid about a smell in my life. And this used to really gross me out, but we used to go to the video store in the 80s, rent some VHS. She would get home. Now, they would take the VHS out of its proprietary box, right? And they would put it in the little plastic generic clamshell for you to take home. We would get home. She would have the 2 or 3 VHS cassettes. She would open the clamshell and bury her face in and huff because she loved the smell of, to me, it always smelled musty. I think to her, she smelled the actual tape of the VHS, but it always grossed me out. I didn't understand what the appeal of it was. It didn't smell sweet or like fresh baked bread or a delicious perfume or something. It was like this gross smell. But she did it for years, and it always made me nauseous. Like, it made my stomach burn. So like, what are you smelling? It just smells like dust. Yes.
Oh, it's so good. Those white Disney clamshell cases
that you know
all our
know
VHS
about
tapes
this.
were in. Oh my God. Yeah. Every time I'd be like, well, I'll watch Pocahontas. And then you take a big whiff of it first. Like, oh, you're smelling good, girl. And then you put the tape in.
Oh, you smell good.
Taking big hits of Pocahontas and
What is it? What is it plastic?
It was so good. I don't know.
I
It
don't
was
know.
just something about those white VHS tapes, though, like the cases. You pop that open and the waft of it,
I've
just
never in
invites
my
you right
life
in.
seen anyone so enthusiastic about a smell as my, I guess, then 20-something-year-old, 30-something-year-old mom huffing VHS. I mean, it could have been worse habits, but it always mystified me. I was like, what did that was an early memory for me, for sure. And then the other thing that I missed, talking about never being able to go back, and I thought about this, and it culminates in just smelling like the 90s to me. And that's the smell of things that reminded me of being in college, going to people's apartments or dorm rooms, and bars. It's a trifecta of 3 things. It's incense, clove cigarettes, and maybe just cigarettes in general, but clove cigarettes especially. That's very 90s. And the smell of like stale beer. Think of like a bar, old Pabst Blue Ribbon, years of crusted beer just soaked into the tile floor. Just like a college bar / dorm room atmosphere that really brings me back to the mid to late 90s of a very specific era in my life. Even when I go to a bar now, sometimes if it's a divey bar, you could still get that beer smell, but you never get all 3 things. And I think it was a culmination of the hippie chicks, incense, right? And the clove cigarettes and ciggies, which we were chain smoking back then. Even Helene smoked in the 90s, smoked ciggies, and the beer. Crusty old beer bars, just shitty dive bars, crowded bars. Probably using the same taps over and over again. Like there was nothing fancy about it. No frills. Love that. I love just that. That's a scent or a trilogy of scents that really takes me back to being in college and, just being a kid and having fun. And the other one, Micah, that you guessed at was my grandma's house. That was always a weird one for me. Just the smell of houses. You kind of invoked this for me a little bit. You evoked like the smell of your house. I don't smell it right now, but I'm going to go to the beach and come back on Monday and we're going to pop the front door and hopefully your house smells good like mine. But my house has a very specific smell. We've been here for 11 years.
Wow.
And I was thinking about it yesterday. What is it? What is the smell? And why do I love it so much? It's comforting, like all the smells you're talking about. It's cozy, but it's also very specifically, Helene always has fresh cut flowers in the foyer on the piece of furniture in like the breezeway type area. Fresh cut flowers from outside or flowers from the florist once in a while, but always fresh cut flowers. And then we got the floors done downstairs a couple of years ago. So like that oak, it's still new. The hardwood floors downstairs. It's just like a confluence of these 2 really beautiful smells. It's airy, it's fresh. And I love coming home, even if you're out for the day or maybe even a few hours, you come home and smell it. But when you're away for a few days, it's always that rewarding thing of coming back into your place and smelling like, oh, this feels like home. And thank God I never had a house. I don't remember what my childhood houses smelled like. I wish I did, but my grandma's was always this strangely appealing but odd mixture, a blend for me of very clean, very super squeaky clean, almost clinically so, mixed with the smell of home cooking, which was often meatballs simmering all day on a very low flame, 8 hours, 10 hours before you eat. Like my great grandma was probably up at 6 a.m. getting this thing started with the pork and the sausage and the meatballs. So that really cozy home cooking smell, very specific. Because you walk into an Italian restaurant, let's say, you always get a version of that, but very specific to my grandma's house. It didn't smell like any of my other friends' Italian households. Ours was very specific, the Ruggiero house. And then again, mixed with a house that was very clean. And thinking back, you don't even realize it when you're a kid, but so antiseptically clean. Like my grandma and great grandma were cleaning the whole house every day. When my mom tells that story and I think back, it makes sense. Like there was never anything out of place. There was never a speck of dust. Nothing, no surface was ever blemished. Everything was dusted. There was never any, it was vacuumed. So that was, my grandma's house smelled like those two things, which I love. And I'll give a nod before I kick it over to Colin, Jean. And I had 2 kids. The smell of babies is a very weird thing, but it's a very real thing. I'm talking about infant babies. And I was thinking about my 2 kids growing up, and
that new human smell.
It's like, yeah, it's like the new car smell, but for people. And it lasts about the same amount of time too. And I'm thinking about it last night after Micah emailed, and I was like, what is it though? And it's always a little baby powder. And with my kids, it was like a combination, I think, of, if you think of what babies wear, right? Like the really soft touch Egyptian cotton, like onesies. They're always wearing very comfy clothes. We're not getting into like corduroy or anything, wool or anything uncomfortable yet. So it's like the smell of that fresh cotton, I think.
The uniform of the 70s.
Wool for all babies.
My parents made me wear sweaters in the 70s with no t-shirt, wool sweaters with no t-shirt underneath. That's just torture. And then you're going to throw me out in snow, so it's going to get wet as well. What? Why did they hate us? Why did they? I don't know. I don't know. Well, that's a conversation for another time. And then with my kids, I remember it was always like a very specific, like anti-rash, whatever, diaper cream that you would put on like their thighs and their butt. And it always smelled like, they always smell like that. And I remember, probably when they're getting old enough to walk, 10, 11, 12 months old, that starts to wear off. And you're like, no, I don't want this. Again, it's like the car smell. It's like the new car smell, the new interior car smell. It's like, I don't want this to change, but it does. Because by the time they're toddlers, that goes away. So like my 90s bar smells, that's something I miss. And then I always think of the movies, going to the movies. One of the great draws of still going to the movies is the smell of popcorn, right? That's like,
oh, yeah.
Something for me that works on 2 fronts. First of all, I love movies. I love film. So it always reminds me of that. But then it's like your love of film mixed with your love of food. I mean, why is popcorn so perfect for watching movies? I don't know. But the smell is a big part of that. And something missing from just popping things on HBO. I'm not a huge mark for going to the movies anymore, but the popcorn is definitely a get for me. Like I'll go just for like that tub of movie popcorn, because that's hard to emulate at home.
Well, and then you bring the popcorn home, and then the next day it's even better.
That's a food
nice
take I'm here for.
It's delicious.
Love it. It's like day old pizza. Like it just that's a food that ages well. I don't know why, but you're right about that. You're rarely correct about this stuff, Micah. But I'm gonna agree with you on that. And then I have 2 as a parting shot before I kick this over to Jean. I have 2 that I really, in thinking, that I really hate. That 2 smells that I just cannot entertain. One is really musky, heavy cologne. Some people would say this is like very masculine cologne, right? Like that nostril filling, obnoxious, just actually feels like it has weight, physical weight to it. Like I think of Calvin Klein Obsession, or something where it's just like, it's obnoxiously strong. There's nothing airy about it. Helene makes fun of me, actually. She's like, you like perfume. That's what you should wear. You don't like cologne. Like, and I'd tell her, like, no, I like air. Like, a Japanese designer, what is his name? Issey Miyake. He makes maybe 1 scent. And Helene thinks it smells like lemon pledge, but that's like the only thing I could tolerate because it's like fruity. And maybe some people would say it's a little feminine, but that's really more my speed. I don't like anything that's really musky. Like I think of an old school, I don't know. Every time I think of a musky cologne, I think of like Burt Reynolds. Like you need the big mustache. You need the very manly image, very 70s handsome, almost like a very, like a high level porn star type of thing, and that's the way they would smell for me. It's like that. Yeah, that's old school. That's for a different time. And then the other thing that I don't like, and this is a weird one, is if you're imposing your smell that you think is so wonderful on me. I think of car deodorizers, like the little palm trees or the little pine trees that hang from your rearview mirror that are usually that could be very strong. Or if you're burning a candle, like a Yankee candle that I don't like the fall smells, like pumpkin spice in particular.
Oh my God.
It's not that I don't like them. I just don't want you to impose it on me. It's very weird. Like if let's say I'm visiting and I walk into your powder room to have a pee and you got a pumpkin spice. It's October. I get it. You got a pumpkin spice candle going in there. I understand that it's supposed to be pleasant and you're setting a vibe and everything, but I don't want you to. I don't want to smell that right now. Why you do it?
You didn't consent.
You don't have my consent for that scent. Like it's like, and it could be something I would like in a different context. But I wonder about that actually with me. I can't even walk into a Yankee Candle or anything, even a Bath and Body. It's just too much. I can't, because I find that it's like the cologne. I like a very light, airy, maybe fruity springtime summer scent. But when it starts to cross over into the winter, fall, coffee, again, pumpkin spice, caramel, I don't like that. I don't like it. If I light it when I'm working in my studio and I just want a little bit of taste of that vibe and that atmosphere, fine. But not from you. And I don't mean you, Mike. I mean the proverbial, the universal you,
the royal you.
The royal you. I don't need it. Don't do it to me. And the same thing with the car pine tree. It's like, if you keep your car clean, it doesn't need that. Just take the McDonald's wrappers out of there every so often. Clean it up weekly. Keep it clean. It should just smell like, and open the window once in a while.
Yeah, clean yourself up, stinky.
It's gross. It's totally gross. All right, Gene. So let me kick it over. Did I hit everything? I think I hit it and you know what? The other one for me in my old age, which I took for granted growing up. We grew up on an island. Never really thought about it before, but I think once I got away and went back to the beach, it's just the smell of the beach. Mm-hmm. Fresh air, coconut scented suntan oil, the sea breeze. I love it. I love the smell of the beach. It really feels like, and I think because I'm inland in Pennsylvania, Philly, we're a couple hours from the water. I don't have that on the daily. So and I'm looking right when we're done today, I'm going to go down to the beach. And I'm looking forward to that because that feels like a vacation for me and something that I could escape to. Where I guess, Kyle, we kind of grew up with that in the ether, even though we were near the bay and specifically on the South Shore, we weren't necessarily near the sandy beaches, but I guess it just generally kind of smelled like that.
Yeah, we were very near the water, but it was water that you would need a boat usually.
Sure. Yep. Fire
to mess around with that. But yeah, just a few miles from beaches, but not like the famous beaches on Long Island are a little further away from us. But
yeah.
But yeah, I'd take that for granted too, that we were just like, I always joke around, like we were a nautical people. Like I'm like, I'm totally not like, I don't like seafood, don't care about boats, don't care about crabbing and kayaking and all the fucking random shit people do there. I'm like, no, I'm good. All right, Gene, let's hear from you, my friend. What are some of your smells, your memorable favorite smells here?
Yeah, this is a fun topic. I'll go real quick. First of all, Dagan, I think you would actually hate hanging around with me because I wear a lot of musky cologne.
You do.
I do. Definitely all the brands that you might think of. But I do have one particular scent. This is my signature scent. And I don't know if you can guess it, but it's actually from Victoria's Secret.
Oh,
yeah. So they make cologne for men.
I didn't know this.
I spent a lot of time in Victoria's Secrets, and I just noticed that they just happen to have a scent for men, and I tried it out, and I was like, this smells amazing on my skin, because cologne is all interacting with your skin and the heat off your skin. And I was like, you know what, this is working really well for me, and that's been my scent this whole time, and it's worked really, really well. I'm so egotistical that I even fucking put on cologne before I went to the hospital while I was sick, and then the nurses loved it. They were like, someone smells delicious.
Good idea.
I was like, that's me, your cancer patient, but yeah, that's been my signature scent. I haven't worn it in a couple of years just because I haven't been out, but like I actually do need to get a new bottle of that. I don't know what I could describe what the smell is like, but it smells really good, and everyone I know who smelled it loves it. Like every girl I've dated, they're like, I love the way you smell.
Well, that's what you need. That's the thing.
That's all the feedback I need. I'm not trying to court you, Dagan. So I like you, buddy, but so that's my signature smell, and I do like it too. I like smelling it on me. It's called Very Sexy for Him by Victoria's Secret.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very sexy for him.
Very sexy for him. And I love the beach. I grew up on Guam in Hawaii, so this is like the actual beach with the sand. I keep thinking about that quote from Revolver Ocelot, that sweet sulfury smell, of the beach, the ocean, the algae. I feel like I did take it for granted too, though, because I always lived like a 5-minute walk away from the beach, and it was always just there. And I, now that I'm in DC, I'm in like, there's a river. I don't really see the ocean. I miss the ocean, because unlike Colin, I actually do like going on boats, and I'm surprised by that because I normally I might get car sick or even airplane sick, but I don't get boat sick.
Oh, interesting.
Not at all. I've been on like U.S. Coast Guard cutters. That's always fun doing patrols.
Cool.
I stayed a weekend on the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier, and that is just like purely the Pacific Ocean just splashing onto you, and it just smells so good. And just mixed with all of that machinery and the military might, it smells like freedom.
Indeed.
That's so
and
cool.
I also love cigarette smoke. Yeah.
I like it too.
Micah too. Wow. Yeah. I grew up in the 90s, right? I started smoking when I was like 15, and I grew up in a period where we could smoke indoors all the time. So I miss the smell of coffee at Denny's and a cigarette. I used to like sleep at Denny's, just drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes all day. My dad used to smoke indoors too. And yeah, it's great to hear you talk about that dive bar smell, because it's very distinctive,
Yeah, it is. It's like old carpet soaked in beer.
Yeah, that tanginess from the beer mixed with the brine of the cigarette smoke, and if you want that smell, you could still actually go get it and find it at the place where Lincoln's assassination was plotted, at Waka Roll Sushi. Yeah.
Okay.
So the karaoke room is back there. It is run by Koreans, and it's actually a speakeasy. So if you go there and you ask for one of the back rooms, you can go in the back room and you can actually ask for an ashtray, and they'll let you smoke inside. It's legal, obviously, but they'll Koreans don't give a shit.
That's so cool, dude.
Koreans love smoking indoors.
I love indoor smoking too. I miss it. Our dad smoked inside too, but and then he would migrate like in the early 2000s. I want to say he probably stopped smoking inside because our dad used to roll his own cigarettes, and so they would all look like roaches in his ashtray. And my friends in high school would come over and be like, "Is your dad smoking weed?" Like, and I'd be like,
no, that's
maybe. I mean, he definitely did. I don't know if this is what it. I don't think that's what he's doing now. So, and that was during the late 90s, early 2000s. So even then he was smoking inside. But I remember I used to, in New York, I used to just love how New York was one of the first places to force delineate, your smoking section and then ultimately get rid of it. And so when you go to the diner, there was always like just a chamber of people sitting, like, and it was literally a glassed in chamber of people where they would smoke in there, you know, and eat in there. And Dad used to sometimes sit in there and sometimes not, but I love the visual and like the memory of that. Like,
room of shame. And Gene, you know what? Not to cut you off, but when people now, mostly smoking outside, you walk by and you know those smokers that apologize, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll tell them I miss it. Don't apologize to me. I miss it. And they're always so surprised that somebody is not yelling at them or getting mad at them. Quite the opposite. I'm
Same
like,
here,
oh,
same
dude,
here.
I love that smell.
I say that too. I say I miss it. You know, I now actually try to stay away from it because of the danger it might pose to my health. But before, and even still, when I actually have to accidentally smell it, I'm still like, God, that smells so fucking good. You know, it smells so good. I miss being able to blow smoke out of my mouth and nose. It's just a great feeling. I love the way weed smells all the time. It smells like weed everywhere in New York City and Washington D.C. I know conservatives hate it, but I'm like, I fucking love it. It smells great.
I love
this
that
conservative loves it.
Yeah,
I love it too.
It smells fresh.
By the way, Gene, I looked this up for you at fragrantica.com.
That's a great site.
Oh, you've been to this? Okay. You were trying to describe what your very sexy for him smells like. It says top notes are tangerine, lime, bergamot, which I don't even know what that is, and caraway. Middle notes are cinnamon, sage, Sichuan pepper, and bamboo.
Yep.
Base notes are sequoia, vetiver, I don't know what that is either, orange blossom, and musk.
Oh, they got the musk down low.
They got the musk down low, yeah.
That's nice. It's found. This launched in 2001.
Oh, it's a class. Who better than to make something that's going to appeal to women than Victoria's Secret? I mean, it's a brilliant move. It's a baller move.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, no one would ever expect a Victoria's Secret cologne, you know, and they never do. Every time I mention that it's from Victoria's Secret, they're always like at least a little bit charmed by the fact that I'm open to the idea of using Victoria's Secret cologne. I'm just like, it's for him. It's in the product game, you know. They made it for me, you know. What else? I love the way Korean food smells. Korean barbecue. Very tangy again. And I like bread, and I think Micah might like this. I actually really like the way fucking Subway bread smells. You know?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Oh my God! You walk into a Subway, the smell of it. Just for the smell of it, I would pay $5.
I would cross the street
just to walk in.
Literally, I have to cross the street to avoid.
I actually like it. I understand that, like, and I don't love Subway, but I like it enough, but I actually do like the smell of the bread. You know, and every Subway sandwich tastes the same. You know. Pretty much, and it's because the bread is so powerful, you know, it overwhelms like everything else. So yeah, I love the yoga mat bread. Subway, you know, I know they took that shit out, but
didn't they? In Europe, they were like, they weren't allowed to call it bread.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Right. I've been telling you this. I've been telling you this for 20 years. Like, I should have been Gene Park on top of this, right, letting the world know. You know, everybody was so surprised. It's like, really? You're surprised? Have you ever smelled it? Like, it's like, I would cross the street to avoid it. Like,
yeah, it smells too like it does smell like chemically like created like a cologne, you know. Yeah. But I love it though. It smells good to me. Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine the volume of bread that Subway is manufacturing? I mean, I can't even imagine how much bread they make.
It's a good point.
So you gotta figure out shortcuts,
and they do.
Yeah,
and they put sawdust in it or whatever. All right.
And I think lastly, I love the smell of the printed page. You know, I love smelling books. I love smelling, and I fucking hate touching newspapers. I hate having the gray print on my fingers. I fucking hate that. But I love the way they smell. You know,
you do.
I do like the way they smell. I like the way paper smells. I'm ever since I was a kid, I was always taking big hits of paper, and that's why the Disney VHS covers kind of reminded me of books. Right, the white clamshells with the soft spine and everything like that.
It's like
so I would always smell that too because it was always kind of like smelling a book, you know. And these Disney movies were like books, you know. They're all based off books anyway, so you know, that kind of happened too. But I still smell magazines, you know. I subscribe to the Washingtonian magazine. Every time I get a fresh copy baked for me, I just flip the pages open. I just take a big woof.
Yeah, print is it's good stuff, and each one smells distinct, like a magazine from a newspaper from a book. Yeah, hardcover, softcover, they all smell a little distinct.
That's why I miss instruction manuals because they had a smell too. You know,
definitely that was a tradition. I mean, when you would I mean, I actually wrote that down. It's so funny you say that because that was through the PS2 era into the PS3 era, a tradition. You would open your game and smell the manual. I mean,
the PS3 had manuals too. You know, it just stopped at the PS4 generation, I guess. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But
I miss the meaty, not the insert ones, but like the meaty manuals, though. You know, like not the necessity manuals, like the NES manuals, where it's like anything you're going to understand about this game is here, so we're gonna stick around with you for a little while, but more the like, here's a 120 page instruction manual. I think Fallout 3 did something like that, and a few others. I love that.
And the big PlayStation 1 boxes, right? The big cases,
the originals
before they started to put in CD jewel cases. They used to have these big thick manuals into it. You know, I miss that shit.
Yeah, that's a good. Remember Lunar? Lunar did that, right? Lunar did that with both games. I think they had.
It's Silver Star Story and Eternal Blue.
Yeah,
Working Designs, dude. I've often talked about that publisher. I'd like to do a story, or not a story. I don't write anymore. A podcast about Working Designs. Do you remember them, Gene? The publisher.
I do. I played the games. Yeah.
Working Designs was interesting because they were really ahead of their time.
Very much.
They were basically the limited run games before that existed in some sense. So they weren't crowdsourcing, but they were basically just some dudes that were trying to accumulate Japanese games to publish in the West.
Yeah.
And they brought some really rare stuff over.
They were the harbingers. Yeah, they really were.
Yeah, they're an interesting. I'd really like to. I have to get in there and go into Moby Games and everything and figure it out. But like, I'd like to find some of them because the Lunar Silver Star Story and Lunar Eternal Blue special editions are like some of my favorite special editions. And those were some of the first special editions as we understand them today.
Definitely.
Came with like special books and maps and all these kinds of things. That wasn't really a thing. People forget about. You get a pre-order bonus. There's a picture of me in my Ocarina of Time pre-order shirt that Dagan and I are in, from 1998. You maybe get, but there was like some gold edition. I remember they made a gold edition of Ocarina of Time as well. But that was about as crazy as it got. Now you get these. I got a fucking special edition in the mail literally yesterday. Micah saw it for Castlevania Requiem from limited run games that I ordered. I'm pretty sure like 18 to 20 months ago. I forgot it even existed.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I don't even know what this is because I'm totally not buying anything from them anymore.
No, they're really behind. Wow.
Yeah.
Not only because of that, because of what they did to Carolyn.
TMNT Shredder's Revenge like 5 years ago or something like that. It just feels like it's forever. Like, what are you guys doing?
I saw you
posted my
posted
Pizza Hut coupon from a TMNT special edition. Yeah. And Eric would do a Carolyn too. So
yeah. Fuck them. I mean, I'm not buying anything from them. I was thrilled because there is a new Castlevania special edition for Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, which is actually really cool. I've been playing it.
Yeah.
And but that's being done through like some other site, and I was like, yes.
Oh,
so
good.
I can, because I really don't want to give them any more money. All right, I'll wrap this up by talking, Micah, if I might, about a few things. So a few of these, of course, and I just wrote down some random things. As far as flowers, I love flowers. I love gardens and plants. I don't know. I'm just interested in them. I enjoy them. Lilac and Lily of the Valley are probably my two favorite flower smells. Lily of the Valley is really, really an amazing smell. I think very nostalgic for me.
And that's the one I heard you mention that on Knockback before we met in person. And then I went to Victoria's Secret, found a perfume that had Lily of the Valley as the main note. And I wore that when we first met. And I have to believe that that's a big part of why you liked me so much.
Oh, it's interesting.
What were we talking about in the Breaking Bad episode?
I can't remember why, but I remember something on Knockback, and Colin said some of his favorite scents, including, Lily of the Valley. And I was like, oh, really?
That's a good one.
And so I just made sure to wear that.
Wow. Yeah, that is really nice.
That's so sweet.
I love that story.
I've never had anyone do anything like that for me ever.
I never did either until now, I guess. Until this relationship. I love the smell of chemicals. I mean, we're not going to talk about. So especially WD-40. Yeah, WD-40 smells. Why does it have to smell so good?
It's incredible.
Whenever I use it, I don't use it very often, but whenever I use it, I use way more than I have to, just so I can have it in the air and be like, yeah, sick. Good stuff. Yeah, WD-40 smells so good. And there are a bunch of chemicals and just straight up gas, like gasoline.
Yeah.
Why does it have to smell so good?
I hate it.
That's so interesting. You hate it. I love it. Oh, that's so interesting.
So good.
Really? So interesting.
Dave, you brought this up before, but one of my very, very, very favorite scents is baby powder. And what I love about baby powder is that you can take the the container and just squeeze it, like open it and then just put it up on your nose and just squeeze it lightly. And you can just do that forever if you want. And it smells so, dude, baby powder smells so good. I don't know if it's because we all use it as a child and we're just all around that smell, but there's something deep in me that like really is attached to that smell. I love that smell.
I didn't know that.
And vinyl and plastic. And I'm thinking about old G.I. Joes, old Star Wars toys, things like that. And now that we own a pool the last couple of years, buying toys and floats and stuff, there's vinyl, just all these pool toys. I love that smell.
That's a good one.
It's a very nostalgic smell, but it's a good smell. Downy and Snuggle fabric softeners. They're kind of indistinguishable in some sense. Snuggle's probably the better one. Those are really, really wonderful smells. I'd basically huff any laundry detergent or any laundry, fabric softener, whatever. I love it. That's sauce. Yeah. Thank you. And then as far as foods are concerned, I just love the smell of food. I mean, we all love the smell of foods, but onion, garlic, things that work around with that, chicken cutlets, a lot of Italian stuff I love. You were bringing up cigarette smoke, which I do love, and cloves. I smoked cloves for a little while in college and a little bit after, and that is a very distinct smell.
I hate cloves as well.
You didn't like cloves?
I don't like cloves, and I don't like cigars.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I like cigars.
I like them too.
But I had to acquire that taste as I got older.
Yeah.
But I do love the smell of pipe tobacco, which I have never, I don't think, smoked the way that that it's like a very sweet, interesting smell, like the kind of pipe that you don't really need to light. And they just, for some reason, that's such an attractive smell to me.
Yeah.
And then as far as places are concerned, and I think Dagan will be able to vibe with this, although maybe you all will, is just the smell of a deli or a bagel store.
Totally.
Ooh,
not
call.
Every bagel store, not every deli, but almost think like deli, 7-Eleven bagel store, tri-state area. There's just something very distinct about that. I don't know. I worked in one, so I think there's a nostalgic part of that as well for that deli smell, but I had to shout that out. It's a very distinct smell. And, I should have said it at the top, but I'm so fascinated, and Micah touched on this, but the idea that smell is so obviously tied deeply to memory, and I wonder why that is. Is that just happenstance in the wiring of our brain, or is there something more to that? Because it is true that when you smell something old or that you remember or whatever, it comes back like that.
Yeah.
You're like, exactly what it is.
A time machine.
And I find that so strange.
Yeah, it's true.
Like Dag, it's more of a taste, but that's all kind of connected. But I'll catch like a hint every once in a while if I make myself a peanut butter and jelly of the way grandma's peanut butter and jelly used to taste.
Okay.
Which is a distinct thing. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it was the ingredients or whatever, but I can catch it and it.
Yes.
Like immediately, like, exactly what it is. You don't have to think about it like a faint memory or something. I would love to know more about that.
It's interesting. I think it's simple. Right? Like a visual memory is fleeting and it's so complex, but a scent, an odor or a smell is so direct and unmistakable that it's like a little time machine. You get a whiff and it takes you to it's something that can't be argued. And I think there's a clarity to it where a visual memory is just, it's so untangible and harder to cling on to for some reason, Yeah,
and then like you said earlier too, like the smell of people's homes.
Oh yeah,
I could not describe any of them, but I would know them. And it's not even that some of them are good, like really great sweet smells or something. It's just smells, like the way it's not bad necessarily. It's just the way a house smells. And I realize like we live in a new house, so but our new house smell I think is fading. Which I'm sad about because it was so pungent for so long. It was awesome. But I'm not away enough to appreciate it. Like you said, I have to be gone for a while and then you come back and maybe it's still lingering. I don't really know. But
do you smell it when you came back from Houston?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I didn't think of that. I guess not. No.
Fresh lumber. So, I think your house does still have that fresh lumber. It's not just the lumber, it's the cabinetry. Like everything is new, the tile, everything just has its inherent smell still before you clean it. Basically, things get cleaned out. You clean the floor, you clean the countertops, the wood, you hang more things on the wall. There's more furniture to soak things in. But that new house smell,
there's just something about it, like lumber, paint, stain,
paint.
Oh, it's like there's something very good. I love those. Like I love the smell of paint. I love the smell of.
Yeah, me too.
They're not negative smells, for me. So yeah, but Yeah, so that's kind of where my mind is for the things that I enjoy. But I just remember tearing open Star Wars toys or G.I. Joes as a kid, and just that it was like the verification of the toy being new almost. Like, yes, it's like this very overwhelming Chinese factory vinyl smell. It was sealed up. The air is all captured. It's shipped across the Pacific, and you open it.
Great
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I used to buy G.I. Joes and like He-Man too. I forget what that smell was like because we just haven't had it in a while, you know.
Yeah, if you got a new figure, it's there. I would say it's still the same, you know. So you should definitely.
I think so.
Yeah,
for sure.
Next time you get some collectible, you'll enjoy it. I think even Amiibo kind of smell like them in a sense, but I'm not positive.
They have a smell. They definitely have a smell.
Very distinctive. Those are vinyl, right? That's not a cheap quality plastic. That's got to be some sort of vinyl. Higher vinyl.
Yeah, higher quality product for sure. So, Mike, let's kick it back to you. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, this was fantastic. I did come up with one other smell that I can't believe I forgot, which is damp basement. I love nothing more than a New England basement. You go down the rickety staircase and it starts to hit you, that damp, kind of dusky smell of a basement. That's something I deeply miss about being up north, because we just don't have basements here.
No,
and
I miss it
tremendously.
Yeah, no basements here because too much clay.
Yeah.
It'd be a flooding disaster. How does it smell, Gene? You have your? Is that the?
This is the brand new Zelda amiibo. I don't smell anything, but
it's got the Ultra Hand out.
The box for a few days. So
yeah.
Oh, that one's cool.
It might have lost its allure, its flavor.
it is a cool one though.
I love the Ultra Hand. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Are you playing that? Are you playing Zelda, Dick?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday on the show. I'm about 20 hours in. You know me. I'm savoring it, moseying, wandering, taking my time. But yes, so fun. Cool. I can't believe I forgot. Micah, I wanted to know, you're not a coffee drinker.
Oh, I do.
You drink coffee.
I do now. Yeah.
Oh, we got a bond over coffee. Gene did mention coffee earlier, but I can't believe I didn't mention it. That is probably the one essential smell to me. Like, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. The older I get, the less of a morning person. Every morning I struggle to get out of bed. I just don't want to do it. And the coffee is what gets me out. And while I'm doing my morning routine, getting my son ready for school, making his lunch, messing with the dog's stuff, we have a little container on our counter of our K-cups for the Keurig. It's a glass vessel with like the cork top. I have to pop it 2 or 3 times and get a whiff, hold it up to my face just to kind of motivate me through the early morning, because I'm looking forward to that 2 cups of coffee. And listen, limiting my intake to 2 cups a day has been a struggle, but those are the 2 things that get me from that 8 a.m. period through like that 1 o'clock in the afternoon period. I need the coffee, and the smell is a big part of it. The only thing better would be if I had the fresh ground beans and I did it proper. I don't. I just have my little Keurig, but coffee. I have to shout it out before we stop, because that's the one I would. If you said it, you could smell one thing for the rest of your life, mine would be absolutely fresh coffee.
That was
100%.
The most unrelatable thing about Ellie in The Last of Us, both in the show and the game, that she doesn't like the smell of coffee. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I don't even like coffee.
Even if you don't like the taste,
I don't even like
smell.
coffee, but then she doesn't like the smell. That's so strange.
Good. Kyle, do you like the smell? Yeah. You've never been a coffee drinker. Do you like the smell of it, or you don't care?
Smell's awesome. I mean, it's one of those situations where I wish that it was something I enjoyed more. I like Irish coffee and the occasional like espresso or something, but I'm not, but nothing. I'm not sophisticated enough. Like Ramon is one of those guys that's very sophisticated with his coffee and all this, or Dad.
Yes.
And I'm not. I don't enjoy it that much. It's cool though. It's a really cool. It's like wine. I wish I got that, but I don't.
Yeah.
I could never get into wine. I had an ex-girlfriend who was like a total like wine aficionado, and like I would like try to impress her, and I would just like butcher all the names and the years, like like I was being tested on American history or whatever.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was really embarrassing.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, wine is I think white wine I don't mind, but I think red wine's gross.
Oh,
I got to be honest with you. I think it's gross.
I'd give you 5 years. I bet you get into it.
Every time I always try to do it, especially living in Northern California. I used to go to wine country all the time. That's where I got used to drinking white wines like a woman, because you'd go to a lot of these wineries and it would be people are going there to drink red wine, And then they'd have a one or two lighter options, and I'd always take the lighter option.
Riesling.
So yeah, like right, I'd be like, I'll take whatever.
They always say that it
champagne.
pairs good with meat, and I love meat. But every time I try to eat meat with red wine, I just don't. I don't get the connection. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting. I think brown liquor goes well with meat, personally.
Yeah, like I can see it going well with Italian food. I can see that. But
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not that sophisticated, believe me.
Yeah.
All right. Who are we left with? Dag?
Yeah.
Let's end on a strong note with you, my friend.
All right. I can't wait to see what you guys think of this. It occurred to me because as I get older, and I'm older than all of you guys, I'm getting grouchier. And every day I have a very grouchy period where I just get, I'm a pretty lighthearted guy. I like to be jovial and positive and upbeat, but I do get grouchy on a daily basis. And I realized recently it's because there's these certain things over the course of my day that I have to do this inevitable stuff that we're all charged with, right? Chores and that sort of thing. And a few of them just make me grouchy and I don't want to do them. And I was like, I'm going to talk about this on the show. And that's things we hate doing, things we hate to do. And when I toss it over to you guys could take it in a myriad of directions. Maybe you want to talk about the chores you hate doing or just things that you have to do once in a while that you can't stand. Whatever. But what prompted it for me, and this is a big bone of contention, probably the only real bone of contention in my marriage, is that I cannot stand, to an sort of thinkable, almost unreasonable degree, loading and emptying the dishwasher. I fucking hate that thing. I wish they were never invented. I hate them. It doesn't even make sense. If I try to articulate it, I can't even tell you why. But I can tell you that I will stand at the sink and wash dishes for an hour and a half rather than load that friggin' dishwasher. I can't stomach. I don't know what it is. And I'll tell you,
honorary Asians don't use dishwashers.
No,
just in general, like all of us.
Wait a second, I never knew this.
Yeah, we all hate using the dishwasher, so we all collectively decided we're just not going to use it. That's where we put our like trash and like other stuff.
Dude, I was gonna say I lived in a house with an Asian guy in San Francisco where he would use it to dry plates that he washed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
he would wash them in the sink and then put them in the dishwasher.
Using it as a drying rack.
Yeah.
Or for storage for your pots.
He was Filipino.
My people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My
people.
See?
Yeah.
I love this. And I'll tell you,
it's all tracks.
If I try to make it like a lot of Dagan-esque things, it really doesn't make sense. But if I try to break it down to something reasonable or logical, I hate when I go for, let's say, a fork or a coffee mug and I open the cabinet or the drawer and they're all in the dishwasher, sitting there without the thing run. They're all dirty. I have to take it out and wash it now anyway. And this happens you guys might not be able to relate, but in a family of 4 with 2 kids, this happens often. And it's always 1 against 3 because the other people in the house, including the chief, Helene, they're all very pro dishwasher. It's Graydon's chore to wash the dishes. So of course he wants to load the dishwasher. He wants to make it the least labor intensive as possible for his buck. Right. So it makes sense for him. But there's something about it. And then not only going for that thing that you need and then having them all dirty and having to wash it anyway, but unloading the dishwasher. No, I can't. I don't know what it is, especially that friggin' basket with all the silverware in it. I'm not putting that stuff away. There's no way. I'm not doing it. And then also where Helene gets aggravated, and rightly so, is that I will wash the dishes and I'm a good dishwasher. Like everything's going to be unblemished. Perfect. There's not going to be even the silverware. I'm very thorough, but I'm not emptying the drain board. That's somebody else's job. I washed the dishes for an hour and a half. I didn't have to, but I chose to, and I'm not putting the dishes away at all. So I guess larger than just the dishwasher, I don't want to be the guy putting away plates, bowls, silverware, and the like. Even from the drain board, I'm not doing it. And I understand why Helene gets aggravated about that, but I just hate it. And there's other things like I don't mind. Like I'm the guy. I'll wash the windows. I know none of the cleaning people. We don't do window. I'll do the windows all day long. I'm not a lazy guy. I have a strong work ethic. Just some of the things. Dishwasher's the worst. The other thing that I realized right before we started rolling today that I can't stand doing. And I think everybody's going to be on the same page as me with this. I hate it. I'm resentful about it. If you own a cat, there's no way you enjoy cleaning the friggin' litter box. There's no way. I hate it. It's not my cat. I was Lil. We have a Tessa. She's lovely. She's 8 or 9. Lilia got her when she was little. Our daughter, our oldest, she's 16 now. 9 years. Lilia has never cleaned the litter box once. I don't want her to. Especially when she's little. I don't want her to clean the litter box. But am I the only one? Am I the only one that lives here? Am I the only person that needs? Can we take shifts? Do I have to clean the cat shit? And it's one of those things where you just
and
feel
you got to
like
do it a lot, man. You really got to do it often. You know?
And there's no trade off for a cat, especially because I'm a cat. I like cats. I'm a cat guy. I don't hate cats. Had many cats over the course of my life, some better than others. This one is a typical, Tessa's a typical cat, very aloof. It's a very one-sided, one-dimensional relationship. I feel a little bit like an unpaid zookeeper cleaning the litter box. It's like, I'm not getting anything for this. I don't mind taking care of the dog. The dog is one of my best friends, Kiki. She's my companion. She would do anything for me. I know she would stand up. If she could see the bear, she's got the shaggy hair, but if she could see the bear, she would stand up to the bear for me, I believe. So there's a trade-off. There's a give and take with a dog. With the cat, I just feel like, why am I you don't care. You would eat me, probably. You would probably devour me if you weighed like another 50 pounds.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, why am I? So that's what I'm resentful about. And then I have other small things before I hand it off to you guys. I feel guilty about saying this one, the Catholic guilt, but I can't stand going to church. You put me in church. I know I'm 49 years old. I'm 4 years old in the church pew. I feels like I'm there all day. It's an hour. Feels like I'm there for 18 hours. I'm bored out of my mind. I'm falling asleep. I try to stay. I have to go to great lengths just to stay engaged and not off in church. And I do it because it means a lot to my wife. And I do still fancy myself as a Catholic, although, I have my beefs. But the mentality is, let's give the kids some kind of spiritual foundation, upbringing. At least we both grew up Roman Catholic. That's what we know. Let's try to impart something. And then when they get old enough to make their own decision, P.S., my 16-year-old has already made the decision not to go. And, my 12-year-old is still in the running, but I don't know how it's going to go for him. But the idea was always to let's bring the kids along with some kind of religious background, at least what we know. And then they can make their own decision when they get old enough. Dude, I dread it. Every week, Sunday morning, I'm like, I need 2 cups just to get there. 2 cups of coffee. They're not spiked yet or anything like that. It's not that bad.
Not yet. Yeah.
And we have one priest that's really, I hate to say anything bad about father, but he's a windbag. I mean, he just goes on. And I tell Helene, you know what the thing is with him? He's all of the passion and none of the warmth at all. Like, I grew up with priests that would, and I'm not saying they'll have to be like this, but they were very engaging. Some of them were like on the same line as like a stand-up comic. Mm-hmm. Like, they would be up there, they would have humor and levity, and they would really engage you. And they'd be like, they would pick out people from the audience to answer things. Like, it was like entertaining, and people were engaged and they became part of it. This guy is kind of like fire and brimstone. He's very passionate again, but he's hard to, he makes an hour feel like 3, that type of thing. So church is a big one for me. Standing in line for anything, I'm like a child. I have not outgrown that. Standing in line for anything is bad for me. Paperwork of any kind. I have to fill out paperwork for my son's Boy Scout camp. And honestly, it would probably take me, with the health forms and everything, it's a lot, but I'd get it done in 2 hours, even with cross-referencing his charts and stuff like that. I can't do it. I've been trying to do it for 3 months. I just cannot stomach the paperwork. It's even when I have my taxes done, even when I get that stuff back to sign, it's like I see paperwork, I start glazing over. It's like I still feel like a child when it comes to that. The one thing, and I'll hand this over with a little bit of a cup half full. The one positive, I don't know why this happened or what the trajectory of this was, but I used to be unconscionably upset in traffic, driving in traffic. I think about going down to Virginia to see my family, for instance. I'd be worse than the kids in traffic, like a lot worse. Like Helene would remind me of that, but she'd be like, you're like a child in driving in traffic. It's bad. And it's odd because I lived in LA for a little while where my bosses rented me, they rented us rental cars, and we worked in West LA, but lived in Wildwood, Westwood for a little while, and Malibu for a little while. So there was a drive from, that side of LA to the Hollywood area, West LA area. And I sat in traffic for like 8 months. I did that, and it never bothered me. Somewhere in the 2000s, I started to get cranky about traffic. But I will say, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've grown out of that. I'm not upset sitting in traffic anymore. I could abide in traffic now. I'm just kind of take it on the chin. So that's one thing that no longer makes me upset, which I'm glad I brought myself around to, because my family, the better part of my family, lives 300 miles away from Philly to Richmond, and we're going to have to do that trip pretty often. So that has been a nice turn of events. I have shown some growth. I've shown some evolution in one thing that makes me cranky. So as I hand it over, Micah, I'll go to you first. Anything you hate doing in your daily chores, or things you have to do once in a while that you can't stand, make you cranky? I can't see you. I really can't see you getting upset, but so this will be fun.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things I hate, actually. Like, there are very many. My life is a never-ending nightmare. It just feels like a constant parade of things that I don't like to do. When you mentioned waiting in line, that was on my list of one of the things I wrote down. And it's one of those, it's on the level that I don't understand going to like an amusement park, for example. I remember I went to Six Flags once in high school. I didn't live very far from it. We just couldn't afford to go. But the one time I went, and we go and we're in line for the roller coaster, and I see a man holding a sign that says 1 hour from this point. And I just remember thinking, you people signed up for this? That you're going to wait an hour minimum to go on a 3-minute ride? And that it all fell apart for me right there, because I used to see the Six Flags commercials, and I thought it was this magical place that I was going to love. And as soon as I saw the lines and I realized that we're going to be here for 8 hours and we're going to ride like 5 rides, and it all fell apart. I never wanted to go to an amusement park ever again. I was like, this sucks. We're waiting in a line. That's the activity.
It's a bad deal.
I couldn't believe it. Like, there's something shifts in me when I have to wait in a line. And the worst of it is at like the Publix deli, because like they're really slow here. They just take forever. And it's like, I just want the meat, and I can't. There's something happens to me when I have to wait in a line. And like, not outwardly, I'm very polite to all the service workers. I'm a nice lady, but on the inside, I'm throttling them. Like, on the inside, I just want to take your hand and put it on the meat slicer and do that. And I can't do that. You can't do that. But it's just, no, waiting in line is a big thing for me. Hate that. Like, waiting room at a doctor's office is the worst. Like,
that's a bad one.
I was a pretty sickly Victorian child who was at the doctor a lot. Between lead poisoning and my neurological disorder, there was a lot of things. I was at the doctor all the time. I missed my field trip to Mystic Aquarium because I had to go to the neurologist. I waited like 6 months to see the special doctor, and I didn't get to go see the beluga whale. So like, I have beef with doctors, and like a doctor's waiting room, I can't. That's the absolute worst. And of course, like, general things I think most people don't like, but like getting blood work at a doctor's office ruins my whole week. Knowing that's coming, knowing I have to fast, it's just the worst, the absolute worst things. And a lot of that's because I had to deal with it for years. When I had lead poisoning as a child, I had to go to the doctor like every week, so that's my own fault. I shouldn't have eaten the magazines, but I didn't know any better.
That's been my life.
That's another
getting
one.
Blood work for the past half year, because I had to go to the hospital like every week to.
Exactly.
It's just the worst. I used to not hate needles, but now I fucking hate needles.
Oh, you must.
I bet.
And that's where, for me, it's a weird divide of, I have a lot of piercings and I have a few tattoos, and that doesn't bother me at all. Like, I have no hesitation about like, sure, stick this needle right through my face. I don't care. But when they need to, like, we need to just take a little bit of blood, and I'm just like, I'm panicking. I hate that more than anything in the world. I always reward myself by getting McDonald's breakfast after.
Nice.
So I immediately leave the health clinic and then go to McDonald's, which is the opposite.
Feel good.
But that's my
right
reward
away,
for going to the doctor.
Good. I like that.
But then another thing I hate, and I mean, in general, cleaning, it's monotonous. It's boring. The reward at the end is that your house smells good, your house looks good. But the during, just horrible. Dishes are the worst. But I'm the opposite of Dagan. Like, dishwasher, we use it every day. I run the dishwasher every day. I do have several things that need to be hand washed. And that's like the worst part of the day, is hand washing those few dishes. That's kind of coupled with the cooking, though, because it's just one of those, it's just the time investment of, like, you spend an hour and a half making dinner, 10 minutes eating it, and then you have a half hour of cleanup after. It's just like, it's a lot. But the dishes is the worst part of my cleaning. I'll also say I really hate our shower. We have this tile, and the grout is stained. Even you can scrub it, and the stain doesn't come off unless you use bleach. You're not supposed to use bleach, because then the grout starts wearing away. And it's this whole thing of, like, it looks bad, but I can't make it look better. I know in my head that it's clean because I used disinfectant, but it looks like shit. And it's so unsatisfying to have this shower that I spend a lot of time cleaning and it looks bad.
Yeah, why can't
like
they
that.
invent cleanable grout? It doesn't
Like,
sound hard.
why are we still using grout? If I had, like, I would choose to just have the not fancy white plastic shower, whatever it's made out of,
I see.
over the fancy
Right.
tile.
That's crazy.
Because it's just, God, it's just horrible.
Yeah, it's tough.
We have that in the other.
shower.
We have that in our second upstairs bathroom. We have the more
Yeah.
traditional.
A shell.
Yeah, which is
Vinyl
fine.
shell.
But no, we gotta. Yeah, you gotta, like, hire it sucks that it's already happening because the house is 3 years old. But
So odd. Everything's evolved except for grout. You can't find better things to stick tile together that you could clean. It's weird.
it's just granular. I mean, it makes sense
it's
when you think
bad.
about it. It's just everything's permeating it. There's nothing you can really do about it. I don't think.
It's granular. Yeah.
But yeah, that's speaking of that, I actually put cleaning on my list, Micah, just because I always dreaded it, but I was very deliberate about, especially when I had a real job, like a corporate job in my 20s, of being like, I got to do my laundry, got to go to the laundromat on Saturdays, I got to clean the apartment on Saturdays. And I would really go crazy with it. And I've kind of gotten lazy where I really do like neatness and cleanness. And I'm letting myself slip into a level below that now, where it's like a little more cluttered than I'd like it to be. It's a little more dusty than I'd like it to be. And we have to hire cleaning people.
Get
to come
somebody
here.
in. You'll
Yeah,
find somebody.
we're going.
Oh,
We absolutely are going to.
yeah.
I'm writing you that email after we're done. I was thinking about it the other day, actually, and we're going to get someone in here just because it's like, I need someone to just set the new baseline to maintain, because we don't have to do it. It's like, there's no need. Like we could just very easily hire someone to do it. So yeah, that's what I need done. Yeah.
Talk to your neighbors. Really, you could, because you could get, it might not happen, but you could possibly get the I'm already going to be on the block anyway discount, and somebody will vet them. They're good, because we've gone through 8 or 9 different before we found somebody that we're willing to say, for instance, to our in-laws, to Helen and Charlie, like, use Maria. She's actually really good. But we went through like 7 or 8.
You think they'll take the drive down here to Chesterfield County?
She's awesome. Yes, but try to do that. Just way you get somebody that's is good, and that's already a known commodity. Won't destroy the house. That's a big one. Won't break anything.
Yeah, we don't really. The thing about our house, especially downstairs, is like we have an open concept, and we don't really. There's not a lot there. I just want it all gone. Like, I just want everything. I want it to be clean and neat the way it was. There's just so much clutter. But a lot of it is because we're running the bit. I'll talk about it when I get there, but it's like, I'm so overwhelmed by the business that it's starting to just encroach in every place in my life, even physically, because we have so much merch in this house, and so many packages, and so many things coming in, and all this mail everywhere. And it's like, fuck, and I'm really not one to let it get to any less than stellar condition. Like, I really like to take care of my shit, so it's bothering me actually a lot. So it's interesting that came up. Micah, do you have more that you wanted to bring up?
No, I'll definitely agree with Dagan that church is just the worst place in the world. And I mean, a big part of that's I spent way too much time there. When you're a Jehovah's Witness, you go to church 3 times a week, and
Oh,
you do
wow.
door knocking on Saturday, and then you have to do the conventions every summer, which is 8 hours of church for 3 days straight.
Oh my God.
So I have had enough for a
That's a
lifetime.
lot.
And the only way you'll get me in a church, if someone's getting married, sure. If there's a funeral, sure. Otherwise, don't invite me
Oh my
to a
God.
church.
Catholics
for
are such
anything.
babies. I can't
I
believe
know
I'm
we are,
complaining.
right? Aren't we? What the
We're
fuck?
such babies, Gene. What is happening?
Just every Sunday, and that's it for an hour. You know.
Can't even deal with
Yeah,
that
no.
at my age.
Yeah.
Gene, let's get to you. What are the things you hate doing?
I definitely hate staying in lines. I never understand. I'm really glad that during the midnight launch of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom at the Rockefeller Center in New York City, I was trying to get the warp pipe pass, right, to buy the game, and it was all sold out. And I was like, fuck. Well, I was really glad that Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser personally messaged me. He was like, we'll get you in. Because that's the kind of treatment that I want. I want special treatment. I don't want to stay in fucking lines. And
Sure.
that really was dictated kind of why I wanted to become like a person of note. Like in Hawaii, I wanted to be someone valuable to have in the club, because I used to go to the clubs all the time, and clubs always have lines, right? With the bouncer outside, right? And I would always make it a point to, well, one, make sure that I was known. Two, rolling deep with several women. So because clubs value having a good ratio of more women than men. So if I'm rolling deep with like, hey, I have 5 girls and me coming, they're like, okay, we'll let you in, right? So I would build that reputation, always running with a squad of girls to bring into the club, and I would always get to know the owners of the club. And if it's a new club and I don't know them and the bouncer doesn't know me, I would get frustrated and I wouldn't wait in line. Everyone else would wait in line. What I would do is I would get to know the bouncer. I would ask him about his hopes, his dreams, where he went to school, what his family life was like.
Smart.
And then after like 30 minutes of like just like dating this guy, basically, he'd be like, all right, we'll let you in. And I'm like, perfect. That's great. Thank you. Because I would rather do that. I would rather be getting to know somebody and also investing my time in this relationship with this huge bouncer that then stay in line and just like waste away and wait with the rest of with the rest of everyone else. I would rather get to know this guy and get to know him, and then therefore I have a new friend that'll get me into clubs, And a lot of the bouncers they always go between different clubs. So if I know him, if I know Roy from this club, Roy will be working in another club and he'll let me in too. I hate lines. Never understood lines. Every time there's a new restaurant open, I always wait until the passage of time has gone by and I don't have to wait in line for a reservation or anything like that. Absolutely hate it. It's just a waste of time. I don't like cleaning the litter box for my cat. I love my cat very much. But it is a little bit of a chore to have to do it. Fortunately, it's just me and him. So a lot of the cleaning aspects of things is fine because I can get away with not cleaning for, even several weeks because it's just me here. I'm the only one collecting dust here. I'm the only one producing, bringing in and collecting all the dust, and the same with my cat. But it does get busy every once in a while that I do sometimes hire cleaners. I've asked my coworkers who are busier than me and they have families who have houses. And I'm like, how the fuck do you find time to clean your house? They're like, we don't. We just hire someone. It's like that's just how it is within like the speed of what we work and what we do.
I'm realizing that now. That like it gets like I'm in a space now where it's gotten away from me a little bit.
Yeah. It feels like too luxurious to hire cleaners, and then you realize that it doesn't have to be that way. You just kind of need it.
Yeah,
and they're not that expensive.
No, yeah, we're gonna get it done.
Yeah, so it's fine.
No doubt about it.
What else do I hate? Hate doing laundry. Mostly because I live in a small apartment, and when I do the laundry, the machines are very loud, so I can't really focus on doing anything else other than waiting until my laundry is done. So I just mostly scroll through the internet. I can't play video games because I can't really focus. I want to be able to hear all the sounds of a video game. So that's just like an hour out of a day where I
can relate to that. That was the way it was in my LA apartment too, with either the dishwasher, which was comically loud, or we had the stackable washer dryer that was just in like a closet.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what I have.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I have. And yeah, it's just like
right. Exactly. It's so annoying.
Yeah, so it's like that's why I don't use that's another reason why I don't use my dishwasher, because there's one less machine rattling around my house all day. Trying to think about other things I hate. I hate meetings at work.
I hate meetings too.
Yeah, and it's
horrible.
because, and this is interesting because like at the Washington Post we have annual evaluations, and my managers really pointed out that I really work best alone. I don't work well in teams. I don't work well with other people. I don't work well in multitasking projects. But if you give me one thing to do and you leave me alone to do it, I will excel at it at a pace beyond like what they would expect, which has always gotten me good scores, and that's why I've been able to get a raise every year at the Washington Post, which is rare, because I'm able to succeed, and because my bosses were able to kind of like identify that issue, and they're like, okay, let's just kind of like move Gene away from the rest of the pack and just like let him cook on his own, and that always worked really well. Which is why it's kind of nice. Again, like I hate that I don't have a team helping me cover video games, but it's also kind of nice to have that autonomy where it's just like, oh, it's just me. So now I get to dictate everything.
Definitely.
In the coverage,
That's
it's just all up to me, my ability. I have complete autonomy. I have less power, but I have more autonomy. I think that's about it, really. I don't really hate a lot.
Now tell me, who do you hate?
That's next week.
That's going to be another topic. Don't ruin the show.
I could probably go on for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, me too.
Yeah, you could.
All right. I have a few things that I think you guys will find interesting that I hate. Micah will know some of these for sure. First of all, I just wanted to talk about business. The business is I'm in over my head at times with the size of the business relative to what I know, relative to the things that I have to do. And I kind of just trust that things are happening. Like I have an accountant, who's like a great guy, but he's still in Santa Monica. He was in my old neighborhood. That's how I knew him and met him. And he just kind of dips in and out, and just I'm like, I assume things are happening there, like that are fine. So I think we're good. Like, but for all I know, like I don't have an in-house understanding of the finances. I don't have an in-house understanding of all these things. Like I'm kind of a CEO of this many tendril business where we're still small enough, and I don't have the expertise enough to like have my arms around everything. Mm-hmm. And I just hate doing shit for this. Like it's really a blessing to have the business, and it's all like I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but it does reinforce in my mind sometimes. People don't understand why executives, like for instance, C-suite level executives, make millions of dollars. And I'm like, I understand why. And I'm not saying that I deserve that. I'm just like, I can imagine the pressure I'm under multiplied by Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Multiplied by Google. It's like, it must be soul crushing. Like I couldn't even imagine. That's why I don't think people should be making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But if someone's making $20 million a year and they're like, I run Apple, I'd be like, that's probably about what you deserve. Because it's probably horrifying.
I think largely with a corporation that big, those people are largely figureheads with very large teams of people that do stuff. You're in a tougher position in some way because you really are doing it by yourself.
You're a small businessman.
You're small.
You're an American small businessman. That's what it is. And small businessmen go through a rough time.
Yeah, that's hard work.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it goes without saying that a Tim Cook would have his legion of people that would, including all the other C-suite people that would be doing all these things for him. But just having that level of responsibility alone, of being the shot caller and having to be familiar and rattle things off. When you see these guys from NVIDIA or an Elon Musk or whatever, they talk encyclopedically about their business.
Yes.
They understand every component of the business. I must admit that I do have a respect for the American executive, at large, because I think that a lot of them probably are doing a pretty good job. I think the failure happens often in the middle management. Like some of the stupider decisions. Like it certainly wasn't the CEO of Anheuser-Busch that made the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad or the Bud Light can. Like that was somewhere in the middle that fucked up, but he's ultimately the person that's responsible for it.
Sure.
And I just wanted to throw that out there. Like I love creating content. I feel like the bigger the business gets, the more I'm like, I don't know, man. People ask what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm the CEO of this company, I guess. And what the fuck? Like, I'm the CEO. I don't know, man. I think we got to work on that in the coming years. Maybe we'll hire someone.
You're a CCO trying to be a CEO.
Right. Exactly. I should be the chief creative.
Yes.
And that's what I am at Lilymo, and I'm barely able to do that job too because I'm so fucking overwhelmed all the time. I can't even begin to tell you how overwhelmed and anxious I am all of the time. Just all the time. I just live with it and deal with it. But I wanted to point out a few of those things. One thing I thought people would appreciate is I hate recording credits for the show.
Oh.
Because it's annoying. Like I have to be, I don't know if people out there can, if this vibes with people. I've been doing VO for a long time. And at IGN, we used to even get training and all of that. And I was considered one of the better VO people there.
You're very good at it.
And well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But I can't read things without fucking up. I can go maybe a minute, right? And then I'm going to flub. And so when we do ads and stuff, I stitch things together. I'll read it and flub and then just stitch another me of saying it and so on and so forth. But with the credits, you have to kind of be quick enough to get through them so that you're not there for 15 minutes reading hundreds of these names at the $25 level, which we're mega appreciative of. But at the same time, not butcher their names. It's like you want to respect them enough to say the name properly, give it enough space. I just always dread doing it. I have to be honest with you. I always dread doing it.
What about reading ads? Do you enjoy that or no?
I don't mind it because it's the only time I get to write. And I'm often low key, silly or goofy or self-deprecating in the ads. And they're very lucrative for the company. So it's like, why would you have a problem doing it? But so we're grateful for that too. But yeah, ideally, that's not what I would be spending my time writing. Ideally, I would be writing more of the game. But instead, I've just let someone else basically handle that at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Another thing I wanted to throw out there is I have no tolerance for airline delays. This used to be a bigger sticking point for me, but I don't fly anymore. I used to fly prodigiously because I was a journalist, and Gene can relate. I'd be all over the goddamn place, and I just didn't understand, all things being equal, why there were so many delays. And why things were so predictable. And sometimes it's weather and sometimes it's crew and airplane related. But I really do feel like the American airline industry, being the marvel of the world that it is, because it's safe and all of that, and generally affordable, but they've gotten away with murder with just fucking with people's schedules. And it's got to be reined in. It's just so ridiculous. And I think that there is new legislation that gets into that about people getting money and hotel and food and all of these things. Like there's no dicking around anymore to try to convince the airline companies to be a little bit better about this. Or the airlines to be better about this. And then you'll appreciate this. There's two more that I wanted to say. I fucking hate small talk. Hate it. And I don't mean having one-off conversations. Like we were at Allie's wedding this last weekend. My old hockey coach was there. I talked to him for probably 45 minutes. That's not small talk. That's catching up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like the cursory, it reminds me a lot of our family get-togethers when we get down here at Uncle Mike's or at Mom's, whatever, is everyone's together and that's cool. But it's overwhelming in the sense that I don't get to speak to anyone. You kind of want to talk to people. I just hate these, like, oh, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. How's work? This, how's that? It's like, I don't know, man. I would much rather us all split up into 6 groups, frankly, so that we can have a real conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And talk about what you and I would talk about, or you, me, and this person would talk about. And we brought out Allie's husband now, Jonathan, the other week, and it was 5 of us. And even that was a little bit hard to do. There's even like 2 conversations going on. It's like, I just don't understand why people are so down for it. It really does frustrate me. I don't get why. And then when you try to have a serious conversation or say anything like meaningful, people get upset. And I'm not saying like it's like saying something outlandish, but it's like, oh, what do you think about the primary? Or, oh, what do you think about this thing? Or what do you think? It's like, no one even wants to have those conversations. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? You know, I appreciate the togetherness and I like it. I wouldn't mind it so much if people understood that I just kind of wanted to be around it, but not really participate so much. And I know that sounds weird, but I like the togetherness.
Yes, Larry
I like
David.
listening, you know, and hearing and being around, being in the pool, chilling, catching up here, catching up there. But the incessant small talk precludes us from getting into anything deeper, to the point where I can go to some of these parties that we go to and I haven't said anything to anyone meaningful, because you have to go from this person to this person to this person.
Yeah.
Then this person comes into the conversation. This person leaves. Now the food's ready. And then I'm like, this is fucking, wouldn't it be fun if the four of us just got together and went out to dinner?
It really is like that.
And that would, so it's hard for me to communicate that, because it's not a lack of love for family. I love my family. I love the people around me. It's just like, I would love to talk to you more meaningfully. I'd love to have a more meaningful conversation. Everything seems base level because we all insist on getting together as a massive group where nothing can be said or done. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, 3 hours past, time to go.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
But by that time I'm taxed. It's like 3 hours of this, I got to go.
You never get beyond the surface.
Right.
And it never gets that rooted. And yeah, you never get anything substantive. And yeah, it's frustrating. I like your idea of splitting into groups, but then you have to track it, because then the next outing or event, then you have to change up the permutation of people that you're with. But you could, conceptually, you could do that.
I mean, think about it, Dagan. We were at Aunt Carla's this past weekend.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I pulled you aside to sit at a table.
Yes.
To talk, right? About things.
Yeah.
We
catch up.
spoke for 2 minutes. Then Derek came, which was fine. He's like, and he was like, am I interrupting you? Who's our brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Longtime brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, not at all. Sit down. So he just sat down. He was hanging out, having a beer. And so Dagan and I continued to talk. Derek was there. We were all hanging out. But then like our aunt comes over and she's showing people pictures. Then like the next person comes over. And then before you know it, like Dagan and my conversation's dead. Anything meaningful that we wanted to talk about is gone. And now we're back to small talk. You know? And I'm like, I don't begrudge anyone that. It's just, that's not how I want to roll. And I've realized that in my life, I've never rolled like that. I've always liked one-on-one friendships. I've always liked, my relationships. I always liked, I think that's even why I think I like content creation, because it almost feels like me talking to a video, and it is what it is.
Right. Right. Makes
I don't know if
sense.
that resonates with anyone, but that's a real visceral hatred of mine. And I do it because I love my family and my friends. But the reality is that I wish that we could just have serious conversations. I often wonder, was it always like this? There must have always been small talk, I guess.
So interesting.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then the final thing is, I have no tolerance for late people, or people that are like not beholden to scheduling in both daily, weekly, hourly, minute, like being late once in a while. And I should say, when I started really working from home and running this company, I started becoming that person. I'll be 10 minutes late. I don't want to do this right now. I'll do it later. And that affects other people. And I really reeled that back in. And I was thinking, I wrote down specifically, like, just for instance, open-ended times when you have an appointment. I'll be there between 8 and 4. What the fuck are you talking about? You'll be here between 8 and 4. Are you coming on the Cumberland Gap in a fucking horse-drawn wagon?
One. I love this.
I just, that bothers me so much. How can you have no idea? I don't like when people say they're going to be so, or don't communicate that kind of stuff. Time really matters. Like it weighs on people. It's a common meme and joke. Like when you have to do something, you have a meeting, it's like, you need to know, man, So like making it this open-ended thing is just nonsense. It indicates that the fucking termite guy is more important than your schedule. It's like, your business should be soliciting me. You should be making it as easy for me as possible, not as easy for you.
Yeah, I'm paying you.
Right? Like businesses get too comfortable with that stuff. That's why we really try to run as a machine gun at Last Stand. Like we are late sometimes things change up or move around, but generally speaking, you can rely on us because that's important. Right? Like what is the use of the product if you can't rely on it? If anything, we try to get things to you early and surprise you. So I don't know. I wanted to throw that out there as well. People that are like, I dated a woman once that was like, just had no regard for time. None, not even a little bit. And that really drove me insane. It's like where I would start lying about when dinner reservations were and shit like that.
Oh, wow.
Like knowing.
That's not good. Yeah, that's definitely not good. That's interesting.
And so to me, I just have no tolerance for that at all. If someone says, "Oh, I'll be there at 7:30," and they're there at 7:45, it's no big deal. If you say you're going to be somewhere at 7:30 and you're there at 9, you're a dickhead, right? I mean, isn't that obvious? That's not, though, to some people.
No, it's entitlement. I think of like Axl Rose, right? Notorious. Guns N' Roses is going to start at 7. Guns N' Roses always started at 8:45 because Axl.
Oh my God.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And that's in a sense of entitlement. You have no respect for people's time. They've been there.
No respect for anyone. Literally everyone here is waiting for you, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what. So many concerts are so late, especially rappers. Like almost every single rap show except for fucking Macklemore. Macklemore was like on time, like at 8 p.m.
I believe it.
I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I was almost mad that he showed up on time. But like every other rap show that I've ever been to, they always start like 2-3 hours late. Kanye would start like 4 hours late.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just rude and it is entitlement, and it's also it's like your show your time is 9:02. You want to let everyone settle in, build a little bit of tension.
Yeah,
that's cool, but like use it to your advantage as a showman. But yeah, I just generally speaking, calendars, like time, saying you're going to do something, being somewhere, all that I think is important. Just communicating it.
Sure, I
think it's just important, and I've known too many people that just do not care at all, and I just think that's so fucked. And I've gotten to that. I say that as someone who started getting into that mold a little bit and quickly realized it. I was like, well, I'm becoming what I hate, more kind of funny and in the early age of The Last Stand, I guess. But that's it. But yeah, the small talk. Oh my God.
This is a family issue that may need to be, it would be interesting if we could work this out.
Yeah.
You talk about growing up, Kyle. I think the way that was remedied in our family, to my best recollection as a kid, was if I think back to like Sunday dinner at grandma's house, let's say in the 80s, every event, there was no 3 or 4 hour visits. Everything was like, we're going to get there at 11 a.m. and we were there till 9. So those 20 people had 8, 9, 10 hours to convene comfortably with each other. Nothing, we were at callers for some of us 3, 4, 5 hours. It's just not enough time for 20 people to make the rounds and have to be mindful and not excluding anybody. And like you say, you can't build up a head of steam with your conversation or get where you want to go catching up, especially with the out-of-towners like us who don't get to hang with the family and move in that crowd regularly. So I think probably everybody feels frustration, but you're vocalizing it. So it's interesting. It's really interesting because it's kind of, I wonder if it bothers more people than you, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I wonder, because it's just, I don't know. I just don't get it. I'm mystified by the entire notion of it. And
Washington, D.C. is a city full of small talk. So it's why I stopped it's why I stopped attending events or like networking events and everything like that, because it's just 2 hours of just 2-minute meaningless conversation.
Right, exactly. It's like, what are we doing?
I'm not learning anything. I'm not like growing as a person. I'm not like learning anything new about anyone else. I'm just finding out what their day was like and how their job is, and that's it.
And what is that, Gene? Just gratuitous networking and getting back into somebody's sphere so they remember you, or what is that?
Pretty much, yeah. It's always transactional. It's always like oh, what can you do for me? Yes. And it's like I'm not going to do anything for you. What the fuck do you want from me? I'm just here to have fun.
It is interesting. Because everyone in my life I'd like to know in a deeper way. Sometimes I think about a few people and I'm like, I don't really even know you, which is crazy because I've known you my whole life. Because I've never been able to say a fucking meaningful word to you. Because we're looking at pictures on a phone or we're doing this or that instead of just having like,
we never got deep,
grounding ourselves, in like the moment in some sense. And I don't need to have I shouldn't, just to be clear, because I think people know this, is like, I'm not a social person. I don't want to be in these situations very much at all, regardless, because I don't know. I get anxious in those situations, but when I am there, I just wish we were using the time more wisely, because I'm curious. I am interested. I would love to go out and with each person. That's why when Allie and Dana and I are able to escape to a dinner once in a while, or I just get to hang out with Mom and Micah or whatever, we can get a little bit into the weeds, and that's a little more interesting and a little more fun for me.
Yeah.
than just the constant, how is it going? How are you doing? What's happening? Tell me about the house situation, you know?
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I just don't, and I don't know. To me, some people would read that as a sign of disrespect, which I understand, but to me, it's a sign of respect. It's like, no, can we talk about something else? You know? It reminds me of when I was in my 20s and even into my 30s, when you'd get a call from a friend or a text and it's like, come meet me in a bar for a drink. And you'd be like, all right, I'll meet you for a drink, or I'll meet you for a beer. You don't stay until closing and close the place down because of small talk. Mm-hmm. It's because you're like mega engaged in a conversation or mega engaged in a social situation. You know, that requires like deeper stuff than that. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so. I don't think that's bad. I think it's good to acknowledge that. You guys made me think of something with lines, because we all agree on that. There's probably everybody listening could agree on this, right? This is at least weekly frustration with me, and I think this will resonate with you guys. There's this standing on a line post-mortem that, again, I witness a few times a week, where you get to where you're going, you get to the goal, the line, you get everything, your transaction goes very smoothly, quickly, and you look back and you're like, why did if that just took me 20 seconds, let's say, why was I online for 25 minutes? In other words, why did it take everybody in front of me so much longer to conduct their transaction than what just happened for me? Mm-hmm. So it's that line, it's that post-mortem of what the hell just happened? Why couldn't everybody just do what I did? I feel that that's a frustration that goes back for me years, and that I still witness today, where it's like, what were you doing that was so different than what I was doing?
Totally.
Right?
I totally get it. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Bank, supermarket. Dude, I've been at the bank where I'm like, what are you doing? Listen, I don't know what kind of commerce you're doing here, but it doesn't take this long to get it done. You know, I can't stand it.
It's so weird.
The one in Santa Monica, the Bank of America in Santa Monica, was the fucking worst. The worst.
I find that they're all closing. They're all turning into like parking lot kiosks. Almost picture those old Kodak or film development kiosks in the middle of the parking lot. It's just like a glorified ATM machine or two. And the actual brick and mortar banks, the big buildings are disappearing, because why does anybody need, you could scan your check with your phone if you actually get paid not via direct deposit or PayPal. If you're still in the Stone Ages with that, you know, you could do it with you. It's all online. It's all through your smartphone. So why do we really need? I'm not getting rid of bankers, but it's kind of nice, right?
I mean, dude, because can you imagine? And I mean, bankers. It should all be math, and yeah, robots can do that. That's
AI.
Yeah,
AI. Talk about AI.
You guys reminded me of the worst bank waiting in line bank story I had, and it was when I got arrested for drunk driving. And I needed to get bail out of my account. And you know how you can only pull so much out of your ATM? Mm-hmm. So I tried to pull $300 out of my ATM, and I was like, they were like, you need $1,000. I was like, fuck. So I went into the bank, handcuffed, waiting in line with my fucking ID out. I'm just like walking, like it's like 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm just like, everyone's just like watching me as I'm, and the cops right behind me as I'm trying to.
Necessary, that public shaming.
I guess so. I needed it.
You're not an arch criminal.
Yeah.
You made a mistake, but you're not a killer. You know, just escaped off death row.
Yeah, I still want a request for my mugshot. I never actually got to see it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. I do have one thing that I forgot to mention that I hate. And I actually don't hate the concept of it, but I hate doing it. And it's public transit. I've been jumped there before. It's dirty. It's always unreliable.
Where? In DC?
In DC, yeah.
Oh shit.
You know, and you know, there's that whole controversy about the man who choked the other man in New York City subway. Yeah. Not going to get into whatever that was. I just don't want to be in a place where people are choking each other. That's it. I just don't want to be in a place where people think that they have to choke another human being, and that could happen, or I could just get jumped or whatever like that. So now I just don't. That's why I can afford to live close to work, so I don't have to take the metro to work. I just walk to work now.
Oh, that's good.
Here,
it's dangerous.
Great, and I don't have to deal with the metro anymore.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, in thinking about it, spending so many years in San Francisco on the bus and on the Muni, the subway there. Mm-hmm. and the BART. I mean, that's just like notorious, like post-apocalyptic Mad Max.
Did you enjoy
level
that
shit.
experience?
Is it
You know,
really?
No, it was horrible, but you were just I couldn't imagine not being. See, I hate to say this, but it's like living in suburbia and even more of a rural kind of area it's like, why the fuck would I ever want to live in a city ever again? There's when you hear about all these horrible stories and there's a riot and there's someone burned a Target down and someone got choked on the subway. It's like, none of that's happening here. I'll tell you that much. Like, there ain't a goddamn thing happening here, you know?
Yeah.
And if you ever tried anything in any of these neighborhoods, there's probably more fucking guns than people in this neighborhood.
That's
the
thing. Yeah. In the suburbs.
So it's I don't know. I think back on that and I'm like, why was my tolerance for depravity so high? And I think it's just, you don't know any better until you get out of it, or like you feel like you need to be around it. But the American city at large seems to be in a state of decay. I don't know what's going on. You know,
I think
we got to get our arms around it. I think the last time this felt like that, I mean, I wasn't cognizant, but it was probably the late 80s, early 90s when there was the last push of like, we got to fix the cities and get people in. That's where Giuliani and all those people.
That's probably true. Yeah. True. Late 90s. Yeah, I would say that's true. What do you guys think? Gene, you did touch on this, but what do you guys think closing out of Zoom meetings? This is a new one for me because I think back, I really miss being in the office pre-COVID, and actually a little earlier than that for me, because I really liked traditional team meetings with my fellow animators. I liked the ability to step away from the work for a bit, collaborate, brainstorm together, put our heads together on ideas, and just kind of get together as in a communal fashion as a team and just either commiserate or work on the project or make things better. It always seemed like a break for me when I was in the studio or in the building, in the office. Zoom meetings, I cannot stand them. I will go to great lengths to avoid them.
Can't stand them.
Half the team is blacked out. They don't want to be there on the East. They're on the West Coast. They're just waking up. They don't want to be seen. The communicate. No one really. The advent. I understand having Zoom meetings in place of traditional meetings is the idea is, hey, it's better than no meeting, right? But I think it might be actually detrimental because Zoom meetings are actually turn out to be not only not constructive or helpful, but actual waste of time. I'm finding in the animation community anyway, in the animation space, people don't want to participate. 2/3 of the team are zoned out, working on what they're working on anyway. You're not really in front of each other. Again, maybe a third of the team you could actually see and get them communicate. It's not like doing the podcast where I could see you guys. So it's, how do you guys, have you guys been able to witness that? I'm just surprised at myself and the way it's trending for me in that I'll go to great lengths to just say, and not accept meetings and just be like, I'm not doing that unless my boss absolutely insists. And then my boss has to be like the creative director. Even if I'm not art directing, even if my art director says you should really be there, I'll be like, it's not necessary. I don't know if that's just getting older and where I would be much more inclined to go through the motions 5 years ago and just not rock the boat. Where it's now I'm like 25 years in and I'm like, you're not really going to tell me to be in a Zoom meeting if I feel like it's not going to be constructive. Maybe a little the rebellious Dagan coming out. But how do you guys feel about it?
I have a strong perspective on this. Obviously, I work at an office, a very large newsroom, and we had a ton of Zoom meetings during the pandemic, right? Hated them. I was always one of the people who had the cameras off, hated them. And there's a lot of talk about, how people are protesting. Oh, I don't want to. Why are you forcing us to return to the office? And our publisher, Fred Ryan, really, really wanted us to be in the office to the point where he was actually checking our badge swipes to see who's actually coming in and out.
Wow.
Which is a little much. It reminds me of Walt Disney, how he used to check the hoods of cars to see if any of his employees are just pulling in.
Good call.
Yeah.
Especially during the strike.
Yeah. But to his credit, or not to his credit, but to his point, I like being in the office because there's a lot more creativity. I'm not surprised that in the animation world that there's that going on and it all goes back to my favorite word, serendipity. That you cannot replace just seeing your colleague in the hallway, which I've had so much of it in the past few months, and just being like, hey Justin, hey, come here, let me just chat to you about something, because
I
it just
love
comes because you just see the person's face and you just start thinking of an idea,
Yeah.
and you decide to have that. It's rather than scheduling, and you're not going to have an agenda for an idea like that, that just kind of pops into your head.
I love
and
that.
you just decide to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Zoom meetings are all about agendas, about lists, about and a 30-minute block. That's why this podcast is different, because like we're not here for 30 minutes and then we're out, right? We've been podcasting for 3 hours, so we have like this long conversation. It feels like we're bouncing ideas off each other.
Yes.
That doesn't happen in Zoom meetings. So that's why when Fred Ryan, our publisher at the Washington Post, wanted us to go into the office, I was the first person to sign up. I was among the first round, and number one, I wanted him to know that. I wanted him to know that I want to be in the office, so he can favor me too.
Smart.
So
yeah, definitely.
That's you got to be playing politics in the newsroom. So when at the end of 2020, when we were all coming into the office, I made sure to go up to his office at the 9th floor and knock on his door and shake his hand and say, "Hey, good to see you, Fred. I wanted to make sure, look at my face. I'm in here. I want to be here, and I'm here to say hi to you."
Very smart.
Dig, are you satisfied on this topic?
Yeah, that was great, man. I really enjoyed your feedback. You guys gave me some ideas. I guess I hate more than even I initially thought, but I'll rest back on my traffic victory, because I'll say this now, and then it'll take me 5 hours to get to the Jersey Shore now instead of 2.5. But I'll have to be well behaved, because I already claimed that I could deal with traffic.
That's exactly right. Well, my friends, thank you for taking the time to talk to us and being here today. And congratulations again on your new show, Punching Up, a Nintendo podcast. Thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support of all things Last Stand Media on Patreon, free feeds, YouTube, etc. Couldn't do it without you. Yeah, I guess that's it. God, a 3.5 hour episode. We went pretty long today. It's good.
Biggie.
It's a meaty one.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's time for us to enjoy our weekend now. It's time for you to enjoy this episode. Actually, you've already enjoyed it, so I guess it's time for you to enjoy something else, since we put up 350 episodes a year.
Go listen again.
Go listen to another one. You have another one. There's so many of them. And no, by the way, before we go, thanks again for all the kind words on just the new structure, the new schedule, being patient as we work everything out. We appreciate that as well. I know that's a little bit of an annoyance, but we've gotten everything in line now. So, and $5 a month for all those shows, I think it's pretty good.
Come on.
All right, my friends. Till next time. Goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.